time. Don't say I never told you. Go, get out of my mind. I refuse to be a soldier. Waste my time. Don't say I never told you. Go, get out of my mind. I refuse to be a soldier. Waste my time. Don't say I never told you. Go, get out of my mind. I refuse to be a soldier.
Big updates to map consistency, an expansion of the recall system, and the results of those aim punch tests. All this and more as we dive into the update 35.1 patch report. First up, as we talked about in the 2025 roadmap, we're starting our big moves towards standardizing key gameplay elements of the Battlegrounds experience. This will be a phased approach over the next several updates and will begin with items. You'll see things like the zipline gun, emergency cover flare, and stun gun appearing across all Battlegrounds, while things like the thermal scope and blue chip transmitter are being removed everywhere. Take a look at the roadmap for all of our upcoming plans, or the patch notes to see the specifics of this first set of changes. Another way we're unifying the experience is by expanding the recall system to all maps, which means it's now available on Karakin and Paramount. Each map will have its own specifics for the system, so check out the patch notes for details. We're looking forward to seeing how these changes shift strategy on these maps. Next, thanks to your great testing and feedback, we're ready to implement the new aim punch system to live. We're going live with the settings from our last gunplay labs, and are looking forward to hearing your feedback on the system in the live environment. Last but not least, we're making audio adjustments based on your feedback, such as your shooting, driving, and the mortar explosions. Let us know how it sounds. There's also a new contender system in the workshop, a new survivor pass, more improvements to custom match, a new rank season, and more. So check out the patch notes for full details. Update 35.1 is here, so hit up a blue chip tower, call in some friends, and give your enemies a personalized lesson on how aim punch works. We'll see you on the Battlegrounds.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
And welcome everyone to the PUBG Players Cup. It is Gibson back on the mic as always with Chunks, who's been bringing you through all the action for every single Players Cup so far. Chunks, week 1 in the history books. We're about to find the last 8 teams to join the previous 8 in the first Super Cup next week. Or not next, 2 weeks time. 2 weeks time.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting one. If it's anything close to last week with just how tight things ended up being on that top 8, it's going to be an exciting set of games to watch. Obviously, the leaderboard has been wiped. We are starting anew. There are more teams that are coming in. There are some teams we're going to see that have already qualified. And before we get into things, I would like to quickly touch on Taego. Now, they did qualify last week, but they've decided that they want to make a substitution going into the Super Cup. For that reason, they've had to they basically given up their spot to go directly into the Super Cup. So they are going to be getting replaced by the 9th place team, which was potentially dangerous, and they will have to re-qualify tonight if they want to play in that Super Cup. I keep wanting to say next week, the week after next.
Yeah, because obviously there's another big event happening, next week that might take away from the Super Cup way over across the world. But I suppose it's a big thing to talk about because Taego are one of the strongest teams in the Americas. The change that they've made is a big decision to make. You've got rid of Pipa, who is one of the strongest players in the region, and made that change. But here is how we got to where we are today, Chunks. There are scrims on where we've got a couple of best of 3s. The qualified teams will join the invited teams in the Players' Cups, where the top 8 will qualify to either the Masters or the Super Cup. And as you said, when there's some changes, teams will go through elsewhere. But another roster I'm looking forward to seeing tonight, Chunks, is Empire. We're getting to see the updated Empire roster, and they were pretty good in the last Players' Cup, and they're looking a little bit better again for this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to be an exciting one to watch. Obviously, Empire, they did really well under their previous roster. Now, with Shimboy, Michael, Poonage, Belfrost, that is going to be a team to look out for sure.
Well, and then a lot of other teams that people will be familiar with, the likes of LG, who are putting a heavy focus on TPP this year. You've obviously got Taego we spoke about, potentially dangerous. We'll be playing tonight again because there is, of course, prize pool up for grabs with every single Players' Cup. But there's some familiar faces as well there, Chunks, like teams like Panella Good, who would have been, people might have known from last year, having seen playing inside qualifiers. And then they will join the 8 teams that are already there. And we got some of the big dogs, right? Al Qudsia, Team Liquid, LG, 55, already making their way through. But I missed the games on Sunday, so why don't you tell me a little bit about how Mira and Pure performed?
Mayhem is the only way I can describe what happened on Sunday. It was really interesting to watch. There were a couple of teams that definitely we expected to do a lot better. When we looked at the first players when we looked at the first lot of Players Cups, the Masters that followed last week, there were a couple of teams that really disappointed. Teams that spring to mind have to be Typhon. Obviously had an amazing performance in the Players Cup, then in the Masters, did extremely well again, but they just weren't able to qualify. So they're going to be back in tonight. They're definitely one of my teams to watch. But as you already mentioned, LG, they're such a strong squad. They are grinding the TPP at the moment. Even though they've already qualified, they're going to be back in the lobby tonight. And I'm sure we are going to see at least one game where they come out on top over the weekend.
Yeah, it will be fun to watch. And as you said, it is a bit mental. 4 maps a night. It's not like the normal 6-map series where we got 2 maps on Erangel, 2 in Miramar, then 1 Taego and 1 on Rondo. It's just 1 game on every map. And when there's only 8 games, Chunks, it really leaves a lot up to the, a lot of things that can change as we get ready to jump into Miramar for the first time tonight.
Yes, as we mentioned, for anyone who hasn't been paying attention, there are only going to be 8 games over the course of the weekend. That is 4 today and 4 tomorrow. So the opportunities to shine are limited. But if you're able to seize one of those and get consistent points throughout the rest of the evening, then you're going to be looking really strong going into that Super Cup. It's all about a law of averages, and that tends to reign true a lot more in the best of 6 series, where we have, not best of 6, like the best of 12, the best of 18, where we have 6 games a day. We have the chance to play a map multiple times in a day, get the swing of things, look at hot drops, adjust them when required, and that's not something they're going to have the opportunity to deal with tonight. And it looks like Typhon, well, they might be having to fight a hot drop already if they're not careful.
Yeah, Sam Martin looking like the battleground to kick things off in the first game of tonight. Boots on the ground from Typhon, nice and early, but the first player will be knocked. Sam Crow giving a little bit of cover to Sonics will fall. Now the rest of Penella Good are inside, but for Psycho, you've got to hug the wall, get around the fence, get in that next building, and hope that Sam Crow can keep pressure from above. But this is a really good start to the night for Typhon, but the job is nowhere near done yet because at 1 knock, Chunks, this could go the other way.
You got to carry that momentum, don't you? The only way you could say, hey, they're looking really strong going forward in this fight is if they were able to get 2. It's not unheard of that you drop in, especially in a public match, for instance, where you have 3 players on your team. You have to take a 4 versus 3, and it is still going to be difficult for both of these teams. Nobody has a free ride.
Yeah, they definitely don't. And look at the way the Typhon are playing this too. They know that all of Penella Good are trapped together. It's this thing that I like to talk about all the time. That's not every hot drop is the same. Some teams will all land condensed in one spot, whereas it allows another team like Typhon to be the aggressor. So Sam Crow can play this roof. He can play this position up on the top. Penella Good cannot push up through that door without him being able to hold the angle. And look at that zone, Chunks. And Chunks, I'm looking at that zone straight away. If I'm Empire by Los Leones, you want to take this path and you want to play that southern coast, avoid any potential conflict that'll happen around here. The same for OMG. They'll be wanting to move either up around here or going direct from that angle. But a circle like that, expect a lot of fighting around that edge.
Absolutely. Now, I do have to say, we've seen this circle a few times before. I'm going to give drawing a go for the first time. Never mind, we're not.
I like how when you click it, it shows that it's you that's drawing it as well. It's like, yeah Chunks is drawing this image.
But look, whenever we see this zone, it feels like it always ends up in one position, and you can see a couple of teams already working their way down there. We got Mira, we got Toyo, and we've got one of our new teams coming into the lobby as well, all playing for a similar position. If you can grab that hillside early, you're going to be looking really strong. But Typhon, they're looking strong, and they are looking confident as they try to close the distance. They're wanting to take this fight. Psycho's gone up on the outside. He's got the Panzer in hand. Now, this could be dangerous if there's a couple of players clustered up in a room. You can tell he wants to open that door, wants to call it out to Carax, but as of right now, they're playing a little bit carefully, and that's probably for the best, because there's going to be a player waiting on the other side of this door. That position's given away. The Panzer finds the knock, and he quickly converts it to a kill.
Yeah, and Psycho's never going to lose that in that position. You could even get the 1-for-1 trade with that Panzer, and you've still got someone there for the instant res. Penella Good now, they're in a rough spot. 2 players left alive. Sam Crow still holding the roof with the S12K. He's got the scope on it for show, but it ain't going to use that at all. You've got them trapped. It's just a matter of clearing these buildings room by room now with, military precision. But what a bad start for Penella Good. But on the other side of things, great for Typhon to get 2 kills on the board early, and they're hunting more.
In the bottom right corner as well, we can see Mira. They're going to be playing up for this hillside. This is the compound I was talking about. Whoever wins that, typically, they make it into like the top 3 or 4 if they can hold on to it successfully. Typhon, they're going to be pushing through. Another thing I want to talk about as well, though, is when we're observing these players, we're actually seeing exactly what they're seeing. So you can see that Penella, they're making the most out of the third person. But Typhon have opted to take this fight so far, all in TPP, which is interesting.
Yeah, inside buildings like this here, usually you'll see players switch to first-person perspective because when people move across your screen fast, it gives you a much cleaner view. As we see Tony using it right now in that situation. S12K again, double shotgunned up. You've got the MP5 as well. So they're going for all of the close-range weapons that a lot of teams tend to prefer in these inside fights. Like Sam Crow on the roof, as we said, he is just relaxing. There's not really much he can do. Warlock's position's been revealed now by the footsteps, so the rest of Typhon, they can just stack up here, Chunks, and play for trades.
Certainly going to try to, but they need to find that opening first. They need to get aggressive, clear out the room above them. That's exactly what they're going to do. Nice shotgun coming out from Karax. They have now cleared out this building almost completely. There's only going to be one more player left up, and that's not very good for Penella. Good, as he's just going to be holding onto that doorway, making the most out of the barrel if they decide to peek out. But honestly, Typhon, they are just playing for trades perfectly right now, and I would be surprised if he's able to make it out of this alive.
Yeah, M249, he's going to peek around the corner. He's not even going to get a chance. Psycho will put in a few rounds in the back of his own teammate, but our first team has wiped Penella good down, and Typhon, 4 kills on the board, no players down. They're sitting on top of the leaderboard to kick things off, and it allows us to finally focus on what's been going on in the rotate game. Team Mira spotting out the boys as they make their way inside the circle, and well, Fana, one of my favourite players to watch, he's holding the high ground. He's got the Mini 14 at the ready. He is just feeding so much information. And just look at that. Tochi Boy will fall for boys on that rotate, and potentially dangerous will pick up a kill of their own.
Fana landed a decent bit of damage there onto Gabriel. They're going to try and loot up that body, get a little bit extra, I imagine, given their position that they probably made an early rotate in, so they do want to try and grab a little extra. I gotta say, Mirror, they're looking in a really strong position right now, but they do have to be careful if those rotates are forced out. They are quite split at the moment. There's a potential that teams could cause them problems, one of which being OMG. As you see them riding along in the E-pickup, they could easily drop down and do some damage. Doesn't look to be the case right now, but Van has called it out. He's staying aware, and Mirror do need to be cautious with this one, because if they all drop on your compound, you are in trouble as a solo.
Yeah, and at this point, this is where you're going to tell your teammates to keep an eye on the E-pickup. Fana can focus on what's going on elsewhere, sending off some rounds just to let everybody know this position has been taken. And if I'm not wrong, Chunks, if you want to see where all the teams are inside the lobby, you can type !map, and that should give you the map stream that you can watch to see all the rotates these teams are making inside the circle as well.
I do want to point out, speaking of the map, in Czech are only just starting to make the rotate out of Cruz. They've got a long way to make it in. Now, they could potentially play the edge, but they are really going to struggle if this circle centers up where I think most teams are expecting it to, which is down on these really steep ridgelines. They're going to have to come in through Picardo or Monte Nuevo, which are both very barren areas, very little cover to work out of. So they're going to have to get aggressive if they want to get some points out of this game.
Yeah, and you know, it's all about getting points. There's only 8 maps over 2 days, so in reality, you've got to take advantage of every opportunity you can get. As we do look at the new roster for Empire for the first time tonight, way off in the distance, you can just about see Night of On had a angle for a second. Not really enough to get the knock, but doing enough, firing enough shots, letting Empire know that you're there. I'm looking at the map. Empire do have a lot of control pushing out of Chumacera up on top of these hills. They'll be able to take a lot of advantage of this position.
Absolutely. Now, they are very split. You do have to be a little bit cautious when you're Michael right now. If a team does make you move in, it's probably time to escape, but he's pretty confident. There's no one applying too much pressure right now, and I think that any of these teams that are rotating in late are just going to assume that all of the strong positions in the center are probably already taken, so I can't imagine them getting aggressive for it. I think that any of these edge teams are really just going to wait it out, but in Czech, they might have actually spotted out Infinite Void. I wonder whether they're going to be able to take a couple of shots down. Doesn't appear to be the case just yet, but still not ideal if you're in the blue zone taking damage.
Yeah, 100%. And that is phase 1 though. So at the end of the day, it's 1 damage per tick. So the likes of Forever, they're not going to be in a ton of trouble as they make their way inside the circle. The only issue they could have is that they'll run into some traffic on that rotate across the southern coast, because you've got Forever coming in that side just through Los Leones. Now you've got 4C as well, as all this pressure starts pushing in. But Chunks, as you move into the circle from the side, this hill's where you kind of want to think about. You want to think about going here, but all these teams can't get to that same position. Ooh. And with that zone shift, Chunks, this is phase 4, phase 3. This is not a phase 3 circle we've just seen.
No, I mean, you're right. Maybe a third half of the zone is completely taken out by unplayable terrain. Then you take into account the water down on the south. Maybe if you're a team like Forever, you just opt to go down to the island, make the cross a bit later than everyone else, hope that everyone deals with each other up on the northern sides, because I don't think many teams are actually going to be looking down to that island given the current position. I think for a change after that phase 1, we might not see that end game that we see so often in a circle like this, where it ends up on those ridge lines where we saw Toyo posted up earlier. It looks like OMG, they could run into a little bit of trouble as Yai is close by. They're happy with the compound that they've been able to claim, and hopefully they'll be able to get some shots out of it.
Yeah, look at Joni. Joni making the right decision, not engaging too much onto this fight just yet until you see the final car in the path, and going for popping the tires, misses them at the first time of asking, switches over to the other angle with a barrel. But look at Kwan, gets a great knock on to Varas, and Team Queso, they're going to lose 2 here as well with 11 minutes gone on the clock. And that's the problem. We have, what, 4 or 5 teams trying to rotate down this narrow valley path inside the circle because of that shift. The maths just don't math.
No, it's going to be difficult, and speaking of difficult, it looks like on map feed is going to be difficult to view right now as well. The observer's having a bit of trouble actually being able to zoom it in with the amount of unplayable terrain that's going to be inside of here, so it's going to be an absolute mess. We spoke about the size of the zone, and I wouldn't be surprised now if some of these teams making it in a bit later are going to be struggling to find a position that's actually playable. I think for a lot of these squads, it's going to be a case of playing edge, sweeping through, but honestly, you want to try and get center when you've got so much verticality. You want to try and get that high ground, and that's not something that's going to be easy to come by. And if you do, you can almost guarantee you're either going to be pushing on someone or somebody's going to be pushing you.
Yeah, and speaking about pushing, oh my god, just putting pressure on Desai on the other Sacron on the other side, and the whole point is to try to find the knock. They're not going to extend out of this position unless they see an opportunity to really get a couple of knocks on the board. As in Zeka team, one of the really late rotators that you spoke about earlier today, just getting in a battle by that bridge. Now they are going to go for that cross over on the south side. It means they will be able to play inside the zone once they get there, but they're going to have a problem, because if you follow this exact same path, Chunks, Forever are doing the exact same thing, and they can set up a beautiful camp on the likes of Nzeka team in about a minute or two's time.
I mean, where are you really going to play other than the compound that's next to the bridge? So yeah, it could definitely cause them problems. Now, if Incheck are able to spot the vehicles that are parked up, well, that could be a different story. They could potentially ambush and keep things quiet for a little bit. But I think right now, there's not going to be much quiet. It's going to be a lot of teams taking pot shots, trying to weaken up other players wherever they can. Empire, they have to be a squad that we focus in on tonight, just because it's a new roster, and it is a roster of absolute fraggers as well. These guys, I don't think there's any one of them that you could say could not hold their own if put in a tricky situation. So seeing all 4 of them on a squad together, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, you know what I love is the fact that we got, as we saw Empires, that zone shifted. Having Shinboy and Punage back together, those two being separated, it just felt wrong. Not seeing Poon and Shinboy together just felt so wrong, and it means now that you've got a pretty nice roster as, oh my god, 1604 trying to get a point on the board for their side, and well, that's a great shot from LFP. That'll force them back into some cover, but I'm looking at this zone, and I just don't know, Chunks. There's so little to play. I expect that 15 team number to drop to 13 or 12 before phase 3 turns into phase 4, because there's just so little to play.
I mean, like, half of the zone is unplayable terrain right now. We keep talking about it, but it's like we're in like a phase 4, phase 5 circle at this point. With that hard shift as well, everyone's going to be playing for the same handful of hillsides. LG, they're just about making their way into zone. They've managed to get a compound on the very edge, but again, I don't think that they're fully in hard cover there. They have to make a decision on how they're going to play this. As Andrew, he's got the bolty in hand. They're always impressive to see when they can actually land one of these, but it's difficult on the zip line. At least it makes it a bit more predictable where the players are going to be. As in check, forever, finding out the hard way. You can't be getting knocked on there.
Yeah, but did they really have a choice of other ways to rotate in? Because the bridge is a bit of a dangerous one as well, as we see 2 members of boys get knocked up in that kill feed. Taego having a look here on the edge of the circle inside their compound as, yeah, Jed shot more than likely done and dusted now as well. Get a God ain't going to be able to get that res off. So we've got 49 players left alive as we reach the 15 minutes gone mark of this game. Cluzera is down, but there's Benya going up to get Clue back on his feet. What do you think of that change of bringing Cluzera in? Because, as I said, Pipa and Benya had been playing together for so long. Now you've got a couple of big changes on this Taego side, and they're going to sustain a knock on the other side.
I think only time will tell when it comes to these changes. A lot of the time, bringing in some fresh blood, it can really give you the boost that you need. So I think that will be the big thing to watch going into this weekend, seeing how they perform as a semi-new squad. Obviously, you've already got the foundations there. Sometimes making one small change can have a huge impact, just as Infinite Void has a huge impact. Wiping out in check like it's nobody's business. 4 kills on the board and 4 points for Foradoras.
Yeah, that's 4 on the board for them. They lose 1 player, but that ain't too bad. 14 teams left alive now as we're down to 43 players. Team K, so under a little bit of under a little bit of pressure here as well, as Fairhopper is up on the high ground, peeking this way and that. The Bizzler out in the open should be done with pretty quickly, and that's exactly what happens as Anna and Fakeson will combine to get that kill confirmed. And oh no, it's going to be another one. Vox should be the next player to fall. This is just shooting fish in a barrel here as LG in a ton of trouble, but oh my god, Gats will decapitate Fakeson. And that might slow down Mira for just a few seconds on the edge of the circle, but for LG, they were not expecting that at all.
I feel for Fana right there. If he had a frag grenade, this could probably be a very quick fight for Team Mirror, but it's not to be. LFP's going to look around to try and get an angle, but not able to find one. LG scrambling a little now. The circle did go hard in their direction, so they're going to be happy about it, but what can they really play? They've got a hillside. As soon as they open themselves up, LFP's going to find it. Actually, it's Carry Chiquito that lands the first knock onto Gats. LG down to just a solo, and I maybe cast a cursed them at the start of the evening because I said they're going to have a good performance, and it seems like so far they've just not been able to. I think the zone is a big part of that, though.
It is. Like, the circles have just been rough as boys will fall now too, so that's 13 teams left alive as Snakers put some pressure onto LFP. He's down to 21 HP, but he's the last player alive. He's got himself a Bronco for some cover, and LFP down on top of the hill. Kwan should be able to extend over and get that res, but the problem for Snakers is KRRY are keeping an eye on the other side. Nubsky, another one of the solos inside the lobby. Yeah, this ain't gonna go well for Infinite Void. Infinite Void, does he know? I don't think he knows, but he will just move on out of there with a pop tire Murado. I don't think he realizes just how close to death he was.
There are some facts that are better not to know, and that's one of them. Unfortunately, they are going to have to become aware of that later on in the game if they do get pushed from behind, but right now it looks like they're just going to move up the hillside a little bit further. Nubsky still just going to be laying prone in the building, not wanting to give anything away. Toyo doing the opposite. They are giving away their position. They want to make themselves known. They're taking a lot of shots, but they're just not in an advantageous position to actually make anything out of it. Empire, they managed to get a kill on the board. They're sitting pretty in their current position. The only problem they're going to face is if the zone shifts up north, they're then going to have to be the ones that work up the hillside in the open.
And Tayo on that hillside, as you can see, the further they push in, it's going to be problematic for them. Empire looking to take advantage of their southern spot, but there's Benya landing a nice headshot and forcing back inside. I think that I need to double check my alt account knowledge, but I think XXP is Punage and Beastweaver is Bale, but we will need to get full confirmation on that from somebody inside of Empire, maybe one of the viewers who watches the streams. But we're getting ready for that next shift. Who is going to win the PUBG Lotto, Chunks? It's going to be Taego winning that Lotto with that great shift. And Capitan, the question is, do you now fall back to join the rest of the team, or do you still play this very central position that you have?
It's balancing that risk. Obviously, as a 3-man, they do want to try and group up, but if he gives away that high ground, it opens things up for teams like Mira, even the solo from Snake as carry, all to move down and potentially catch them off guard. But at least for the time being, it looks like Capitan's going to stick to it. He's gathered a lot of info from that northern side, so he might be able to get the read that there aren't too many teams that they actually have to worry about. Really nice shots there from Siren, so they try to follow it up with the second. They're not going to be able to convert the knock, but they're certainly going to put some damage onto that vehicle, knowing it's almost certainly going to be used forever. Nubsky falls as we make it into the top 12. Tony flushes one out with the nade, looking to get 6 kills on the board and potentially finish off another squad.
Yeah, Tony in the blue, but you can see the damage that he's sustaining inside that phase 4 circle. And he's got himself essentially a 1v1, but he's being held by Nidavon. J0809 putting some pressure on the Foradores. Maybe you should think about popping that tire, but a nice headshot puts a bit more pressure on. But Foradores will get close up against that ridgeline. There's a FAMAS in the hands of Fuskitao, but the problem is the blue zone is at their back here, and Fairhopper, he's going to peek on over. There's another angle, and there's going to be the knock on to Fuskitao, and that leaves just one player standing now for Foradores. That ain't going good. Quattraconos are going to fall in 12th place here as well.
Fairhopper going to try and land the nade. I'm sure he'll be able to confirm the flush. Not sure whether he can follow it up with the second. Really needs to try and get back up to the hillside to the rest of his team. OMG, they do have a decent opening into zone. They can't get preoccupied with this, but look at the mini-map. Look who is sneaking up. It is Empire. Already got 4 kills on the board from their compound, but they are not content with it. They are splitting off 2-2, and they want to engage onto this fight. I don't think they're going to be fully aware that there may be a solo down here, and that OMG are already going to be looking down, but I think they're hugging the wall just close enough that they're not going to give any info away.
Yeah, and you can just see as well, teams inside the blue is Payne still using the high ground, but it's a wrap against the wall here for Dores. J0809, he's holding the other angle, but in a fight like this, Payne should have the advantage. All pleasure I am Tokyo has got to do is reveal himself for a second, and Payne should get the knock, but no, missing the opportunity at the first and then gets it at the second. For Adores, they're going to fall. 9 teams left alive as the placement point window is almost open.
It's getting close now in terms of placement points, but there's still a couple of undetermined variables. OMG, they need to try and get out of this compound probably in the next circle. It hasn't shifted yet, but yes, it does move away. Empire with their 2-2 split, they're going to be looking strong in terms of holding OMG out, but in terms of actually making a placement into the zone, they're going to have to rely on a team like Toyo to get distracted by potentially dangerous. That might be exactly what happens as Typhon fall down in 8th. We're into the top 7. We are well and truly into placement point territory now. It's just going to be a question of who is the next to fall. It looks like 1604 wants it to be one of those Empire players.
Yeah, and the terrain is working against both of these teams as well, as they need to make their way inside the circle with their blue at the back. And as you can see, LFP just up on the hill might be able to get an angle, but they're a bit more focused on KRRY on the other side of the circle. This battle for the north between 2 teams as Fana will find the angle, but doesn't get the knock onto Lopez, but Kwan will. So K Lopez will fall for KRRY, who need to make their way into the circle. And I like this move by Michael. Michael's trying to get the flank up, but does he realize there's a player on the other side? Michael steps on up, shuts one down, but he's traded it directly on the other side. Fairhopper will take him down. OMG, 5 kills on the board for them, but it's a race against time to get this res. But will Punage and Punage be able to stop it? And Bale, because they're the last 2 players standing. But he can just about see a player in the distance. Peeks on up, does a little bit of damage onto one here. Chunks gets the knock off. Is he going to get another one? He needs a bit of support.
Flashbang going to come out. He really needs that support, but it's going to be Furhopper that drops down, takes down Beastweaver. Only XP is going to be left up. First aid kit coming out from Furhopper as OMG. They were looking so strong, but now down to just a 2-man. They have been significantly weakened by that Empire push, a second of which is about to come through. XP pops over the ridge, but it's going to be JAO809 that finishes off the job to take it down to 6 teams remaining. Taego, we knew they were engaged with potentially dangerous for a while, but they couldn't convert anything over, and it's Gabriel with the Panzer to take down that player. Only one left up now for Taego, but look at this, Team Mirror, they have 11 kills already on the board. So impressive from them, but Kawazee needs to be careful with such limited ammo. Might need to think about dropping the DMR soon.
Yeah, only 18 rounds with 9 in reserve for the AUG, but as you said, a couple in the Yang. Oh, there we go. That should be a knock for him. Manages to get it with almost the last bullet inside the chamber. Gets the flush now too, but maybe he's got to consider dropping down and getting that crate. Finding a little bit of ammo for himself, but 14 kills as Team Mira are dominating here on that north. They've got the cliff. You know, you've got a brilliant position for them. And look at the solos, right? You've got JO809 all by himself. One player in Chiquito left alive. Capitan, the only player for Taego. So many teams have taken a beating so far.
Mirror are looking so strong in this position. They just need to hold on to it. If they lose one player, it significantly weakens the position and allows other squads to move up. Potentially Dangerous have made their position known. They took a really aggressive fight up against Taego, so that compound is eyes on for everybody right now. As Mirror, you really got to hope that they try and group up a little bit. Obviously, they will concede a little bit of zone control to that, and it looks almost like Kawazine is playing up at the top so that he's able to support either player, whoever really takes that engagement first.
Oh, the deployable cover is down. LFP spots it, but realizing that it's not really an angle that you want to expose yourself too much to, so waiting for a little bit of support so 2 players can peek at the one time. Not bad team play for them, but look at all of Team Mira. All of Team Mira not really in the best position when it comes to ammo, as LFP ain't in a strong spot here either with the MK12. Another reason why they're not being too trigger happy on this battle with JO809. But you can see it as well as I can, Chunks. The blue zone, it's creeping this way. He's got to expose himself pretty quickly, and there's 2 different teams waiting to potentially pick up that point.
It's battle of the solos right now. Whoever shoots first, you have to think dies first, and in fact, it's LFP that takes the first shots to take down 0809. Chiquito also to fall as we make it into the top 4. Oliver will be getting knocked. It's only going to be Aegis left up. Frag grenade should be able to finish the job if it hits the target. And if that first aid hasn't been popped in time, that's exactly what happens. Siren fall. Fana making the most out of the high ground, but again, look at the ammo. They are trying to be as efficient as they can with these shots, and beautifully done from Fana to find a couple of headshots. 17 kills on the board right now, and honestly, given the current number of points, if they can get the win out of this, you've got to think that Mirror are already looking good to take a top 8 position going into tomorrow, just with the sheer number of points and the sheer lack of games that we're going to be playing. But LFP, he falls, and that's going to weaken Mirror's position significantly.
Yeah, 2 players left alive as Glock will confirm out that kill. His helmet's in a great position, as is his vest, and he will now be able to pop that first aid as they buy themselves some time. Glock steps up as another Mira member falls. Taego are wiped out as well as Fana picked up the final kill. That gives away his position to potentially Dangerous, who are about to get their 9th kill of the game and a chicken dinner. But Team Mira have been the dominant story here, Chunks, and Fana doesn't even really have the ammo to fight this fight against 3 players, so it's just a matter of when and not if PD get this win.
He's just got to get all the headshots. That's all that matters right now. He's got 6 bullets in reserve. That's plenty if he only lands headshots from this point out. It's going to be difficult. He's going to try and get a couple of exit kills here. Could potentially round up to 20 with the amount of ammo he has if they line up properly. If he can somehow clear out all 3, this would be an absolute feat. But Gabriel, he is just waiting. He knows that Fana is going to be limited in terms of positions as this zone closes in. He's watching that ridgeline, just waiting for a pixel to peek out out to give away that position. They've sent Glock all the way down to the north just to try and cover, but it looks like Fana has got a read on that for now. He's not going to move until the last possible second. As the smokes come out, it's allowing potentially Dangerous to narrow down their search.
But Chunks, no nades, no smokes, no helmets, half-cooked vest, very little ammo to work with in a pixel battle over a ridgeline. Fana is essential. Fana should be a sitting duck, but this is a player who has the ability to win battles like this. What he needs to do is isolate 1 versus 1s, divide and conquer potentially Dangerous. But as you can see, they've all consolidated their position now. They know they hold the center of the circle. The closer they play together, the less likely to provide that 1 versus 1. And Fana, the blue zone, he's waiting. He's just trying to get whatever he can, right? Will one member of PD overpeak where you can pick up that extra point? Maybe open up the chance to get the chicken dinner? There is no need for Fana to get too hasty with his decisions here.
No, it almost looks like he wants to deny to zone, which at this point might not be a bad idea. Sure, he wants to go and get the kills, but it just means that you give away an extra point. So well done for Fana to be able to deny that, but it's potentially Dangerous who come out on top in terms of the total point tally, though. Mira just steal the show with the sheer number of kills and the amount of damage they were able to put down.
24 points. They come second on the map, but they get 24 points. Massive credit to PD. They played that circle brilliantly and got themselves 18 points out of that game. But all credit to Team Mira. And a couple of teams that would have thought they were in a great position ended up not really getting too much out of it. You know, you think of the likes of Team Empire, Taego. But a team that we still got at the start of the game, as we see that little switch over to the Lambo. The closest thing I'll ever get to owning a Lambo inside real life is the skin in this game here, to be honest. But I want to talk about that start from Typhon. They played that team fight so well, Chunks, at the start of the game.
Yeah, really, really impressive from them. Unfortunately, they weren't able to convert it over to all too much, but they got aggressive, and that's all they were really able to do in those scenarios. I got to give props to Infinite Void, though. That was an amazing play in that compound to be able to jump out of the window and clear the entire squad. I wish we got to see the whole fight, but hey-ho, there was a lot of action that game, and there's only so much you can keep up with. And unfortunately, I mean, Empire, they got aggressive on the push. You thought that they were maybe going to be able to make a bit more out of it, but they ended up falling as they were a bit too split. I think they realized that if that circle had shifted away, they were going to be limited in terms of what they could play, and at the end of the day, no one ended up being able to make anything out of the position that they were holding, so it's not too surprising that they did end up faltering. At least they tried something different to make something out of nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Can we talk about how good that drop shot from Fairhopper was as well, as he jumped over the ridgeline and got the kill on to Empire. Here's our leaderboard, though, as we said, Team Mira, 24 points for them. Potentially Dangerous on 18 in second. And then look at that drop-off, Chunks. Half the points then for, oh my god, Taego with 7. All the way down. Points for everybody as far as 11th. But for a few teams, nothing on the board at all.
No, it was a very top-heavy game right there, and we're just going to have to see how things unfold for the rest of the evening. We keep talking about one big performance is all that you really need to be able to qualify into the top 8, and Team Mira, even potentially Dangerous, both had that right there. It's a shame that Mira weren't able to convert it over to a win as well, because that really would have pretty much solidified their position in the top 8 when you look at the previous Players Cups, but there's still everything to play for and still 7 games left.
Yeah, and look, if you go into this and you offer these teams like 7-8 points a game, they're going to bite your hand off. They'll take it before the weekend even starts, because that should qualify you through to the Super Cup. But for them, off the bat, 24 points. All they need is 1 or 2 good performances, and they don't even have to worry about the rest of the games. But for the viewers at home, we're going to jump into a pretty quick break so you can go to the bathroom and get yourself hydrated. Remember, drink as much water as you can. It's good for you. And come back in about 2.5 minutes time. We'll be ready to kick off game number 2 of the night. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
Welcome back in, everyone, to the PUBG Players Cup. We're already 25% through the night's action. Yes, that is a caster risking maths on a broadcast. It's dangerous, I know. But Chunks, we're done with Miramar. It's over and done with. We're going to look ourselves forward to pastures new.
Yeah, it's always exciting, isn't it, when we have that quick map rotation. And it really does test how well teams are able to adapt in a single game. And I do have to point out, again, the zones. I feel like every single Players Cup so far, even the Masters to a certain extent, it might just be that the Players Tour in general is cursed, but we have seen maybe 2 games with what you call a standard zone. Every other game so far in the Players Tour has been absolute mayhem, and I'm just happy to see that the pattern is continuing here. I wonder what we'll get in our next map.
Yeah, well, the one thing I can guarantee that we'll get, because it happens in every single TPP game, whether it be in Europe, whether it be inside of the Americas, is that teams losing players early. It happens way more often than in first perspective, where you will see teams down to a 3, down to a 2, a lot earlier in the game than you would normally see. And it actually leads to these situations, Chunks, where unlike in other games where you kind of have a really good idea who's going to win inside the final 4, in TPP it's always like a 3v2, v2v1, and you're like, this is anybody's game to take with 4 teams left alive.
Yeah, I've just, by the way, received confirmation from a reliable source that XP is Balefrost and Beastweaver is Poonage. Just for anyone who was wondering there. Yeah, so that is the confirmation. I wasn't certain on it, but yeah, I think it's the B is throwing us off is all.
Yeah, it is. And like, just the other players using their real names, of course. If Michael wants me to come in and carry him to a win like I did yesterday in ranked, I'm more than happy to. You know, I'm all about helping out my boy Michael, who I will always, by the way, refer to as former world champion Michael. You know, because he's won a PNC, and I'm a massive fan of that event, Chunks. It's one of my favorite events in the PUBG calendar.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to come back. It's not long now. It's going to be an exciting one for sure. And obviously the United Kingdoms were the champions, so that's all that matters there. As Phase 1 pops, it's not too surprising to see it Super Northern on the playing path. What I will point out is Taego, we've seen a lot of early game fights, and don't forget this river. Bridge camps may be less prominent here on Taego, but here in the Players Tour, we have proven that it is not guaranteed that you're going to be able to get across safely. Thankfully, our Cuds are in the lobby, though.
Yeah, and the circle like that as well, there's so many ways to get across, right? Not only do you have the bridges now, but you also have the ability to call in those E-pickups, which you can use. And I'm looking at a lot of these teams, and in particular, I want to see what LG do, right? You've got center of the circle, which is Yongchon. Now, I know that it doesn't mean a lot whenever you've got the river on both sides of the island, but I'd like to see Snakers move early and secure a really good position a little closer, a little further north, in case the zone tends to shift that way. Other teams worth keeping an eye on in a circle like this are Team Keizo. They're just north of Walsong on the northwest of the zone. Empire way over to the west as well. I want to see how these teams, who usually don't find themselves this close to the circle, navigate it with that being the case. Like, can you look really early and take advantage of those center, those really strong positions where you think the center of the circle could be early when usually you're a team that's more suited to pushing in from the edge?
Yeah, it's about being able to adapt, isn't it? Now, what I will say is some of those teams who are used to playing in from the edge, even when they get kind of center zone, you sometimes see them kind of splinter off and play out to in, just because it's what they're more comfortable with. But I think the unpredictability of the fact that we've got new teams coming in every week, the fact that, we've only got one go of each map, it makes it a little bit harder to prepare for. And I think that maybe going with something you're comfortable with, sure, that's brilliant. But when it's a high risk, high reward strategy like playing for kills rather than placement, it's where you could potentially falter. So that's what we really need to keep an eye on right now.
Yeah, exactly. And while we've got a lull, I want to talk a little bit about PNC again as well. We don't have a Team Ireland, but if there was a Team Ireland, Chunks, I'd probably be on it, because we don't have a lot of incredible players. We got good players, but I'd probably make the cut. Would you support me if I was on Team Ireland?
Of course I'd support you, but obviously Team UK has to come first. I'm always going to root for them. I'm always going to root for Michael, because he's just inevitably going to be on it with the performances that he's able to pop up. But you know what? One team I always root for no reason other than the teams are always just completely stellar people is Team Australia. They are always it's always a stacked roster. It's always just a group of guys having fun, and I just love that. I always have a soft spot for the OCE community.
I think it's like the likes of Brazil as well are always going to be really strong going into events like this. Team USA as well. Here's the thing: when you've got the biggest regions in the game, you're going to have very good teams, right? If that's just the case, that's just the way it always works. Korea last year did have the advantage, considering that they essentially had a full roster that played together at PGC at the end of the year, but it's okay. It was fine. At the time the team was picked, that wasn't the way it was working. But all in all, I'm excited. Look, it's one of my favorite events on the calendar. It's one of the people's favorite ones too, because you get to see players play together who normally don't. Yeah.
They're the best events when you just get to see those mixed teams sometimes, because it is less predictable. It is a bit more exciting, and teams aren't... I don't want to say they're not taking it as seriously, but the pressure isn't on as much as you maybe see if you play with the roster. You're consistently at the top and you have kind of a history of performing well together. It gives you a little bit more freedom in terms of how you play. But what I will say is I want to see Sneak Attack on PNC. He was so close previously. I want to see him this year.
Well, we'll see what happens while we look at what's going on elsewhere. Snakers from LG working with the Bizzler to put some real down. Oh, great shot from Snakers. There's a couple of taps on the Panic Show, and KRRY falling apart at the seams as they rotate in. And I love this. They set up a bridge camp. They realized they had a good position in Yongchon. They had a couple of options. I was thinking maybe about securing somewhere. Instead, they're focusing on getting points, and they're going to get a couple nice and early. Great job from LG. And while that was going on, a couple of other fights going just north of Yongchon. You can see that Nzeke team are in a bit of a long-range battle. As I think is that Taego that might be in the mix as well. No, it's not Taego. But there we go. There's your map stream right now. So we got that battle going on just about here. But what rotate pass do you see, Chunks, that you think are going to be success? Because this bridge here is risky. You can't really cross here. LG have got that on lockdown. There's a lot of big decisions to make for these teams that haven't made that crossing.
So I think for me, Forever are the ones that are drawing attention. They could definitely pull up to the north. It's a question of how they want to play it. Right now, they know that their only real threat is going to be from behind. They've got a lot of safety ahead of them. So they have a couple of options in terms of rotating. They do have to be careful, though, because there are a couple of players off on the west that are starting to move up towards that bridge. And we've seen just how that can go. Right now, though, I think they're playing a little bit slow and they're not going to get too aggressive with it, and they do need to be careful if they decide to cross the bridge ahead of them, which is going to be a very tempting option.
Yeah, Chucky G's in a good spot, and Zeke team, you can see that they're just on the north of Yongchun as they've secured themselves this building, which is a good one to hold because you can keep your vehicles safe. You've got nice angles south. You've got that high bowl above you as well that gives you, you know, like if RNZ comes under fire, he can move a couple of feet and he's inside of cover already. So I'm a fan of the position that they're playing. But with 7 minutes and 45 seconds gone, we're starting to see what you'd expect to see is everybody moving inside the circle. Some teams betting on it being a northern one. Some teams hedging their bets with a little bit of pressure on both sides, which is kind of what potentially your Dangers are doing over by Palace. So they've got the ability to cross that bridge pretty quickly if it takes one of those dramatic shifts south.
On the opposite end of things, though, we've got OMG, who still haven't made the crossover to the north. They've got quite a ways to go, and they've got potentially Dangerous that could be up ahead of them shortly. We're seeing an E-pickup come in, so it's going to be interesting to see how that ends up being used. It could potentially be one of those squads in Yongchun that they just want to get an escape out of there, because this is not a place you want to be fighting in the early game. We've seen so many teams, specifically on Taego in the Players Tour, they take these early game fights, they may win the fight, but then 2 or 3 more squads end up filling the compound, and they end up going down with 3-4 kills.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's that whole concept of what do you prioritize. Like, with there only being 8 maps and the top 8 getting through, you don't need massive point hauls to get in. So maybe those, you know, that playing for that for 3-4 points is the plan for some of these teams. And this isn't for others. They just want to get placements. You know, get inside the placements, pick up some kills, build your game from there. A little bit of scouting work as Vox hits a lovely shot onto Ramirez, who decided to just slow down enough to give Vox a chance of finding that knock. But Ramirez will move a little bit further north. But that's not a bad rotate. The problem is, where do the rest of the Quattro Condos move from here?
It's a good question. And I think that right now it's just going to be a waiting game for a lot of these teams. Wait for that zone to pop, see what options become available. If this does pull hard down to the south, then those squads over in Yongchun, they're actually going to have a really good position going forward if they can get out of the city. LG, though, just putting in work with the DMRs this game. They have farmed so much damage, already got 3 kills on the board, and it's a shame that they haven't been able to get more of these rotation kills. But Shinboy, he's going to be posted up. He's going to be looking for some kills of his own. Lands the headshot onto Aki. Down he goes. Studio's going to move up the hill, trying to get to safety. Might just be able to find it, but Michael trying to land some mini shots of his own.
Yeah, Empire will get that kill. Shinboy will find it. Down goes Aki. And just like that, we lose another player. 4 players down with 10 minutes gone. So the tempo a little slower here on Taego than people are used to, but now another bridge rotate happening on your screen. The shift goes a little bit towards the north, but Yongchun becoming the center focal point of everything going on inside the circle here. Chunks, Snakers, though, speaking about that bridge camp, is he going to be able to find a knock off the back of this? P90 at the ready, but the terrain just working against him. Switches back over. There we go. Snakers, you're the man. Another knock. Sir Latino falls.
Really nicely done there for LG to be able to get that knock. They're going to try and follow it up with some more, but first they want to confirm that flush. The smoke is going up. It's going to make it a little bit harder, but he's still able to find the damage. But it's actually Karax in the end who steals it away. Nicely done from LG. Might be the time to consider solidifying as a 4-man. They're currently playing a little bit split. They both got hard cover, which is a positive, but with the circle centering how it has, you got to imagine a lot of teams are going to be congregating here, and I would expect maybe if this circle pulls up to the north, those southern teams to make a rotate and cause even more of a problem for those teams in Yongchun.
100%, but I think LG, being on this edge of Yongchun, are probably in the best position because they can bug out pretty quickly. They've got themselves far enough away from Yongchun itself while playing on the periphery of it that they won't have too much pressure on them. It's other teams that are further south, like Penella Good or Forever, that could find themselves in a little bit of a problem, Chunks. But I'm looking up at Toyo's position right now. You can see that obviously with the roster change, Cloudera coming in to join the team, they are very, very close to Empire. And with that knock and flush happening a little bit earlier onto the rotate of 4C or Quattro Condo, Toyo know that Empire are very close by.
I do wonder, though, do Toyo actually push onto this? I wouldn't, just with how open it currently is. They do have some nice rocks that they could work with a little bit further to the northwest, and they are going to have a player over there covering it. But based on the current zone and based on how we've seen Toyo play, unless they're going to significantly change something, they're probably going to hold on to this position for a little bit. Gats with a really nice knock onto the vehicle, supported by Snakers, but Typhon, they sent that player over as a scout. They've got the read on these LG players. It might be an idea to start making a move back to being a group. I keep saying that, though, and they keep proving me wrong by just consistently getting rotation kills.
Where a team's going to come from? Like, you're playing in that position. The only way a team's going to get onto these two is by crashing. You've got your early alarm bell to the north with Bizzler and Vox feeding the information this way, and you can be your own alarm system on the bridge. So it's not going to be too much of a problem. But speaking of teams getting crashed on, Chiquito from Carito is under a lot of pressure now. The last player standing for KRRY. Glock putting some real damage in, but he is now being forced the other way because Benya from Toyo is turning attention this way. So we're getting ready for that zone to pop. Look way up to your north. OMG, they're moving the way past Army Base, but Chunks, drum roll please. Winners or losers? LG. That's a big win for LG, I think.
I mean, yeah, like that is the best case scenario for them. Surely now they have to group up as a four-man, right? Surely they're not going to keep players up in the north. Now, we've got to expect that it's probably going to shift hard to the north in the next phase, but still, there's going to be a huge amount of water inside this zone, and look at how many teams are up on that hillside on the north. They're all going to be playing ridges. That is where we're going to see fights kick off now. Sure, when you have that high ground, it's always handy to be able to look down the hill, try and fight into the city, find your opening. At this point, you've got to be so concerned of what's to your north, east, and west. I think that those city teams can just sit down, stay quiet, just focus on not getting pushed by the other squads in the city, and you're going to be good. But we're actually seeing 3 different teams push onto Yongchon right now, and the shots are about to start kicking off.
Yeah, Yongchon is becoming a just hotbed of activity now as things speak, as Mula will get a knock and flush onto Fuskitao as one player falls. Carito are eliminated now as well as their first team to get dropped in this game. But I'm looking elsewhere. There is so many teams to the north. Toyo, OMG, Empire, you're not Penelgu, but Team K, Zido. So many teams will be pushing in from the north, and you can see it right now. This is going to be a battle on the north section of the map as damage is dealt from Beal onto Bran. And he's going to dip himself into some cover as Toyo, Emmy, just keeping himself out of its cover, out of attention for now. Maybe he'll get a bit of damage dealt onto the next wave of OMG players rotating past.
Toyo, they could have taken the shots, but they realized there was only 2 vehicles. There's probably going to be more to follow. Shinboy takes some shots of his own. Beautiful spray lands over onto Bran. Drops down right as Varas lands a couple of bullets. Follows up with a nade. It's going to be close, but I don't think it'll be enough to convert. Team Casito in a little bit of trouble, but that's eased up the pressure as Shinboy caught out by a headshot. Empire are playing super split, but it's actually going to be Beastweaver who gets the knock onto Alervi now. Varas goes up, flushes out. Team Casito down to a 2-man. They need to try and group up, but that is easier said than done when you've got Empire pressuring, potentially 4C going to move in over from the east.
Yeah, and Quattro Condo were actually playing this so passively. I thought that they'd be more aggressive, reading the kill feed, seeing the knocks with the blue coming in. This is a real chance for them to get a couple of kills on the board and free up some space, but instead they're playing passive. Now, Robert will get a res off inside of phase 3, so you got to bandage straight away if you're Bran to make sure that you stay on your feet, and then he eventually does pop that first aid, but the kill feed lighting up now as everybody forcing their way inside the circle. There's another knock coming through as Bale Frost will find one on Varas inside the blue. Robert's going to move. Robert should be the next one to fall with a player like Bale, but no, Robert gets in the cover. When all Robert's got to do is keep him busy because you've got cover, but Bran goes down to the blue. And there's the knock. Great shots coming in from Bale. 3 HP. He pops off the med, but here comes Capitan.
This is really impressive from Taego. They took the shots onto OMG down on the south. I think they were able to get 2 knocks out of it, and they're now pushing up the hillside. Vale's going to be there on the rock to try and provide a little bit of return fire. It works out successfully. Capitan goes down, and Taego, they are getting punished a little bit for this split. They need to be careful. Klausera moves around to the east. He's not given away his position yet, but Michael is going to be jump scouting this one out. Looks like he has spotted him, converts it over to a couple of shots as well, but he's not able to get the knock. XP with big fire down the hill. Klausera goes down. Taego in a little bit of trouble as Empire just raining down fire. 5 kills on the board. That nade is placed nicely. It's almost enough to get a second knock to convert that flush, but it is not to be right now.
Well, that nade's good enough, as that one will find the knock, and that gives him the chance now to go for the res. Michael's the off angle, but Benya puts some pressure up range towards him, so another smoke will go down, but the blue zone is right there. So you have time. The smoke is there. The blue's not moving any closer anytime soon. You're in a fine position as Empire can focus on Benya and Emmy, who are just going to dip their way on out. A reposition here from Emmy to get a little further on the west as we turn our attention inside of Yongchon as Vixen will find the knock onto Mula, but you gotta watch your flank because Gat's got the angle on the other side.
This zone is going to be a nightmare for any of these Yongchon teams. There were a couple playing out on the east. They're now going to have to push their way in. And unless we get a lot of hard shifts, it is just going to be a pressure cooker in this city. Teams just trying to work for an opening wherever they can find one. But it's going to be so difficult for these squads. We have, what, 8 teams probably inside the city. LG going to be forced into an engagement. Snakers holding the wall, using that third person to peek over without exposing himself. Runs straight into the UAS, nearly gets caught out, thankfully jumps out in time. Slump gets a knock at long range as Bizzler tries to return some fire with the nade.
Yeah, LG playing themselves a stormer of a game as everybody's collapsed back inside of Yongchon, realizing the pressure that will be coming from this position. Vox spots out Jed shot through the bricks, but the nade ain't gonna land. But Bizzlers is pretty damn good, as so is Michael's shots from afar. That'll be Voxich down and out. LG down to a 4 now as the pressure's coming in from the boys. But Overwatch coming in from Empire as Michael will deal a little bit more damage inside. The enemy of the enemy is my friend, and that's what Empire are providing with a cover as Snakers is forced into some temporary cover. Blue zone is there, but Twitch Studio should be able to keep an eye on the Yayi, and that's exactly what he does. A good bit of damage dealt onto this member from Secrin, but they will keep moving in. But the blue zone chunks, these teams have got to go building to building, clearing their way through. This is a bloodbath.
Absolutely, and now with all of Yongchon cut out, it is just a mess in the city. We're going to hop on board with Typhon Gaming as they try and play the hillside up against Potentially Dangerous. They know that Glock is going to be down there somewhere, but they don't quite have a read on where. Frag grenades coming out just to find that little bit of damage, but not to be. Gabriel moves out of the smoke. Naviton has been able to get the res onto his teammate, so Potentially Dangerous now back up as a 4-man. They're all going to try and cluster up on this hillside. I don't think Tony, though, was expecting the peek as Glock peeks up, lands the headshot, finishes off Typhon. Another rough performance from them, and that is rough for Selfish as he gets caught with the frag. Warlock watching from the roof, trying to find an opening onto Yayi, but not to be right now.
Urban warfare continuing inside of Yongchon as Vinny's holding one angle. And while all this is going on, there's still pressure from LG to the far side of the town. Chucky, he'll get shut down by Vinny as he gets himself a double, transferring the spray over to Ramirez on another side. And Leones with the M249, almost patching one, but it's going to be another knock from Vinny. He's got himself a perfect angle on the window. One more player will cross, but Vinny spots him out, but he's not going to be able to get the knock. But the blue doing a ton of damage onto Leones, who's got to push, but it's going to be Oliver finding that knock onto Lionel, and Quattro Konos will fall. 30 players left alive, and still a couple of teams working their way through Yongchon as Nubsky can hear Grubsy, but look at this. Here comes Warlock. He might be able to catch him out, but no, Vinny with great covering fire, getting the knock onto Warlock.
This is huge inside the city. Every team seems to be split up. They're all forced into taking 1v1 fights right now, as Vinny has been able to cross. Not quite spotted out by Oliver. As Nubsky pushes around, we'll be able to get the flush onto Warlock. Moolah still upstairs in this building. He's listening out, knows that Slump is going to be nearby. Maybe thinks he's on the outside this wall, so throws down an underhand nade. Forever, I think the only duo that are going to be left up in the town, as Oliver will fall to zone. Selfish tries to focus it. Hopefully we'll notice in the kill feed that that is not to be. Penella Good go down in 10th position. We are one team falling from placement, and at this point Slump, he's going to pop the first aid, tries to get over to safety. He's not under as much pressure. He does have that jammer backpack, so he's not going to be taking any damage just yet, but you hear the beep. He knows he's under pressure, has to make the move. Andrew performing well under pressure after getting caught in the head, returns some fire. Vinny, he pushes out, but Slump is still alive, still prone, using the smokes for cover, but you can't cover from behind as Fanna takes us into placement points.
Yeah, and this is all still wearing these teams down, but there's only 2 teams now inside of Yongchon outside the circle. LG, they are still going to be the keepers of the gate, but Bizzler gets knocked by a bolt from Vinny, and that might buy them a little bit of time. Another bolty shot landed by Vinny, using that K9, letting it bark as he tries to get some more points on the leaderboard for his team. Peeks once more, but this time it will not be successful. But look at this circle. So many teams in a tough spot, and the winner of this fight between Boys and Nzeke team, the only real logical place that they're going to try to move is towards LG, and that might be a bloodbath in itself, as Andrew will begin pushing up through the smoke. Does he dare get himself some stuff inside these crates? This might be something he could add to the tally, as Snakers will peak once more, but it ain't looking good for these 2 teams.
Certainly is not, as Andrew, he tries to take the close range fight, supported by Vinny, able to get the knock. Vinny getting a second though, putting in work for the team right now. There's 4 kills on the board, 4 in check, as Vinny tries to land the spray over towards LG. It's not to be, and now they're going to be aware that there is another team up ahead. Boys are falling, but they still have players left up. All hope is not lost. That's until Bizzler pops his head up and finishes off the job. Toyo, they were down to a 2-man. They've lost a player earlier, so they're now going to potentially be getting crashed by potentially dangerous. Is in chat, they're throwing up a smoke wall. They know what they need to do. They know they need to make the cross, and they haven't got a long time to do it. Only 1 minute now till that zone has completely closed in. In check, sure, they could play the edge of some hard cover, but that leaves them so susceptible to grenades. They have to move out immediately, and that looks like what they're going to do.
Yeah, the tempo not slowing down at all as the Bizzler peeks on up, and he'll find another knock to himself, and he spots out Selfish on the other side. Selfish pushing up the wall. Bizzler steps up once more, steps inside the fire and flame. Richie, you gotta get out of there. You're on fire, literally and figuratively, as he gets taken down. And that one is Nzeke team have 2 players left alive. Gats now, he'll push to get the res onto the Bizzler as Vinny puts the stun. Snakers, he's going to spray him down with a P90 though, as he's doing a ton of damage. 874 damage for Snakers, as Gats will secure the res. Selfish back on his feet as the stun grenade has been thrown. Andrew gets himself up close and personal with the wall, but the smoke is a problem as Empire fall on the other side of the circle. Andrew pushes up to the wall, spots it. Yeah, he's stunned, but he doesn't see anything. But look at the flank by Snakers on the other side.
This is huge here from LG if they're able to make this happen. Snakers spinning out wide. We all know how powerful that P90 can be with its rate of fire, especially at close range. A huge amount of ammo in reserve. As Toyo, they're still forced into taking this fight against potentially dangerous. They're down to just a solo. BZ nade, beautifully done to force them out from the wall. Covered from Snaker as he's able to catch them on the rotators. Called out exactly where Andrew's going to be. If they have a frag grenade, a Molotov, this is LG's opportunity to strike. Gats, though, he gets over aggressive. He was already on low health, and Andrew there to punish it. Bizzler covering with the wall, but Snakers ends up falling as well. Bizzler gets the trade. Thankfully, might be able to get some players back up here. 10 kills on the board for LG, but look at the zone, Gibson. It's shifted down to the south. They're not safe for much longer, and Mirror are in such a strong position with Fakesin playing up on that high ground. He's going to be able to get a good read on LG if they choose to engage on this fight, but it's all on to Pains right now, taking on potentially dangerous.
Yeah, it's a stun grenade one way and Molly the other as he smokes his way across the road. PD looking to clear up this section of the circle. And that's exactly what they do. And it gives us a second to breathe. 3v3, v2, v1. That play by Snakers, even though he went down, was brilliant. They're in a 3 versus 1. Snakers is the level 3 helmet and the level 3 vest. So he's the one that can push out in the open the way that he did, knowing and trusting that his teammate would get the trade the minute that the peak occurred. Brilliant play from Snakers. And he gets back on his feet. So in this 3v3, v2, v1, Mira, 6 kills already, inside the top 4, 24 points in game number 1, 3 players up. They're in a brilliant position to add even more points to the board. And they might just do that. Fakeson gets that knock onto Snakers. It's his second knock in the last minute or so. Gabri will find the Bizzler now too. LG probably not going to get anything more out of this. And they don't as they fall in 4th. PD up to 6 kills of their own. But it's a 3v2v1. And just look at Emmy inside this little square building. PD don't have the utility to clear it, so they're going to have to do it by themselves with their weapons. There's the stun grenade. But look, Team Mira helping out Emmy.
This is really impressive. Credit to Gabriel for those shots right there. And I gotta say, so far tonight, SA have been absolutely dominating. That's 2 lobbies back to back, where the top 3 have all been South American teams, but it's South America on South America violence as Gabriel pops up, takes down Emmy, eliminates Toyo. We're down to our final 2 teams. It is gonna be a 1 versus 3 situation. They go to flush out Slavy. It's not all that necessary, but it at least prevents the res from coming out. If there's one player who's gonna make this happen, though, 4 potentially dangerous, you got to think it's Gabriel. He has been on fire in terms of hitting his shots this evening. There's Mira, they're just going to play this ridge for everything it is worth. They do not have to move, but Gabriel does. I think they actually want to get aggressive purely so they can get the kill point rather than him denied to zone. That's exactly what they do. 9 kills and a chicken dinner. Mira, they're already locked in. I mean, they are just putting in an amazing performance this evening.
What's that? 43 points after 2 games thereabouts. 24 in game 1, 19 in game 2. Pretty good start indeed. And what a little picture that is for the team as well, with that pug with the level 3 gear and the AK. But they've been brilliant. Their macro play, their decision making, their ability to frag, they have been on top. And these are 4 really talented players. Like, if you speak to any of the North American players, they will tell you Brazil has leveled up significantly in the last 12 to 24 to 12 months, and they're seeing the benefits of it. And this is another team in Team Mira with 4 gunners as Brazil are having a great time. I'm just wondering where our boy Frank is in chat to say Vi Corinthians, because he is always in there bigging up these Brazilian teams.
I gotta say, Brazil have impressed so far, and I expect this momentum to continue. They are just on another level this evening, especially when you consider just how many of these teams that have qualified through as well are representing South America. It is not just, you know, an NA meta anymore like it was maybe a while ago, where you saw, you know, a couple of really strong Brazilian teams, but NA really have the dominance. Things have completely changed, and we are seeing in a prime example of that. But the LG boys from NA, they were able to represent in that last game, getting a decent placement, really good number of kills on the board, and some amazing individual plays. I gotta say, this one from Snakers was huge when he flanked around. They threw down, it was either a Molotov or a BZ nade or something, and just forced the players off of the wall. That was amazing to see.
Yeah, and even the way they played that 3v1, like, yes, 2 players fell, but they knew that they were going to trust themselves to get the kills, to get that win. As we look at the points off the back of that one, oh, let's calm down a second. That was play-by-play for 20 minutes. The action just did not stop from minute 10 to the very last second of the game. So let's look how things are going, right? Another game where you're seeing a bit of a drop from the 3rd place team down to the 4th, but Mira playing pretty well. LG with 14 points with those 10 kills as well, as they rocket themselves up that overall leaderboard that we'll see in a few seconds time. But it's kind of been failure to launch for a couple of these teams, like Foradores, Carrido. They've not really got their feet beneath them yet, and there is only 2 games left to go tonight.
Empire Gaming, they're a team that's drawing my attention. They are going so kill heavy tonight. We saw it in game 1. We've now seen it again in game number 2. They've only managed to get 1 placement point. Let's look at the overall standings, though, and see how that stacks up. And as I said, Empire 2 placement points, but 12 points to go with it. At least they're getting that average up. It's Team Mirror, though, that are stealing the show. 43 points in 2 games. Over the previous Players Cups, that alone would have been enough to qualify.
Yeah, so they're pretty happy. They're 43 points. That's averaging. That will be averaging over 5-6 points a game over the total 8. So they're in a pretty good spot. PD going nicely. LG as well. And because Team Mira have been so strong and PD, it means that there is a big jump from 2nd down to 3rd, which also means that after 2 games, everybody is essentially still inside this game. Like a good game from Team KZito, they jump to the left side of the leaderboard. Same for Boy, same for Quattro Konos. Everybody has a chance to get through to the Super Cup, which is on in a couple of weeks' time, Chunks. And of course, that's a 3-day weekend with a nice little 5k prize pool up for grabs for it when we come around the corner. But Chunks, I think after all that craziness, we need to jump into a break ourselves and get hydrated and get ourselves ready for Rondo. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes on Rondo. We'll see you guys in a few. Back to the PUBG Players Cup inside of our PPT Tour, and with that being the case, Chunks, we are halfway through the action tonight. We've just got 1 trip to Rondo and 1 trip to Erangel left to go.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. We've seen some wacky circles, you know, throughout the tour. I want to see if that continues. We keep saying it, and honestly, I'm sure it will at this point. And that's what we want to see. We want to see that mayhem, see these teams really push their limits, and I just hope it keeps being as exciting as it has been. I do want to see other teams start performing well, though. We've seen enough out of Team Mirror. You can take a break for the rest of the evening. I'm sure they won't, though.
Nah, keep going forward. If you're playing like this and you're playing hot, get yourself going. Go and dominate the rest of the lobby for this weekend and do your best to get as many points on the board as you can. But other teams, right? Team Queso, Team Quesito, they made their way into the last Masters. They were so good at the second round. We've not seen that from them at all, Chunks. They were excellent at making it to the late game. They've only got, what, 1 point, 2 points today so far?
Yeah, it's rough, and I guess you could say the same for Typhon, though, couldn't you? They're a team that have been really good at performing well, getting a lot of kills, getting to the end game, but this week and last, they have just underperformed. Let's hope that they can make a change to it, because when they are on, they are on.
Yeah, and you don't have much time. Double plane path, by the way, as the intersection is just to the northwest of Danqing. One plane going from north to south, the other one going from east to the west. But it's very southern favored with that slower flight path. You'll see a couple of teams dropping incredibly late. Teams like Team KZito, LG going to Fongtun. But I'm looking a little further north. Inside a stadium, you have two teams not too far away from each other. Team Mira, who have been dominant so far. And Corrido, I think they've done the right thing. They've gone a little further south off of this flight path. But I'm just curious as to where the zone will go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I want to see how Empire take this fight. We've seen them take early game engagements previously, but not in this current roster. So see if things unfold a little bit differently. As phase one pops, we're breaking from the trend, and it looks like we're centering up on test track.
Why? Why do we go here all the time?
I know you guys make a meme out of it, but honestly, for the Players Tour, this is a strange circle.
No, it's not strange. It's test track. You know,
for the Players Tour, it is.
Yeah, in PAS, we did get a couple of circles to the north of test track over that meander on the river. But we're going to be looking towards test track. Typhon, they are chilling for quite a while inside of this game. There's going to be a few compounds that you'll see teams focusing on taking in the early stages. There's one just on the edge of Neox Factory that Taego usually love to move north into. But we've got ourselves a hot drop as in... Why are we hot dropping here, by the way? Like, Empire fighting with Forever in a position that you never see two teams.
My argument would be, what ult drops do you actually have to work with? And I mean, Shinboy, he's putting in work with that org. They both got Panzers. It's Panzer on Panzer violence, but Shinboy swings round, goes for the hip fire, and it is converted over just in time.
Oh, Shinboy's laughing. How do you lose that fight when you've got a Panzer at that sort of a range? But Empire, they're up to 2 kills now as Shinboy has done all the damage by himself so far. Scooby and Slump still alive for Forever, but for Empire, they've been really active in the early game. They've gotten so many kills in the first 5 to 10, first 0 to 10 minutes, phase 1 kills. Let's see if they can add a few more with Slump and Scooby not too far away. But for Slump and Scooby, Chunks, they're on the southern side of this area. If they can find a vehicle, I'd be trying to get out of here. I'd be trying to find my escape plan. You're in a 2v4. It's a really rough spot to be in.
It sure is. It's going to be difficult, but it almost looks like they do want to engage onto it. They're still going to be looting up. Empire just keeping their heads down, not wanting to expose themselves. They are fairly split, so they don't want to be getting taken out in a 2 versus 1 situation here. Michael laying prone, just trying to get a read. Hasn't spotted anything out just yet. As Forever, they are starting to move away a little bit, but just look at this position from Poonage right now. He's looking out. He has a good read. They're probably going to move this way, and this is the benefit of sending a player a little bit further away. You can have good coverage in the city, and then when they do make that rotate, you can have a good read on it early.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking at it. They're playing a 3-1. Well, 3 players looking for the last 2 members of Forever, and the other player scouting on the opposite side to find out whatever information they can. But I don't see a vehicle, Chunks. Like, they're in that rough sort of a spot. Michael's the front line of this offense. Slump, I think I was going to say you fired too soon, but never mind. He gets that knock. Pressure coming from the other side. So you SKS and you look a little further away towards Poonage. Full utility dump inside. Shinboy gets that knock. And now Scooby's the last one up. But it's a 2 versus 1. Really, it's a 1 versus 1 in essence down at this section of the map with Poonage a little bit further away. But as you can see, the res is being attempted. Balefrost working to get Michael back up, but the nade, it just bounces on the wrong side of the wall. And now Scooby with a JS9, and it's going to be a click on empty. Scooby might just be able to find another knock for himself here in this 1 versus 1, but has the time ticked away. Smoke grenade thrown, and now you can go for that res once more. All you've got to do, if you're Poonage, is just keep the pressure. That was so close.
Oh, Bale chose to stick the res instead of going for the kill. Not a bad decision there, because if he had gone down, well, that would have been the end of 3 of those players. Scooby, though, he had the full med kit, has been able to get back up to full health, but he's only got bandages left in reserve. Needs to hope that he doesn't get caught with any more shots. Slump, almost playing for info now. I don't think Forever are expecting to be able to get this res. They just want to know where these players are to at least salvage a point or two out of this. As Shinboy pops back up after being res, the position is probably given away. I can't be sure based on the placement of the smoke. And Scooby, he's just going to start making a run.
Yeah, Empire back on up. But let's focus our eyes elsewhere around the map as Corrido's Panic Show will get knocked by the nade from Jedshot. Another follow-up has been thrown as Richie will do 49 damage, and the tick gets him back on up as Get a God will tap a couple more times. But for Corrido, things are going from bad to worse as Jedshot shows that he's Johnny on the spot with his aim. Another knock on the board as K Lopez will drop. Richie will be able to trade that one back, but this ain't looking good for Corrido still. They're pushing upstairs. Another knock has been found as Chiquito will be the next to fall, leaving one member of Corrido standing. And the question is, how much more damage can they do? Joni getting that kill confirmed. You know exactly what it was, but look, PD putting pressure on from afar.
Really nicely done here to close up this engagement, but Richie, he's going to be sticking that res, and I don't think boys realise it. It looks like Torchy wants to try and get back there for a revive, but they know that making that cross, making that move without cleaning up those final players is going to be a problem. There's now Touchy pushes round the side, tries to get the knock, but it's Richie that comes out on top, and Panic, well, they know he's going to be back up now. Beautifully placed Molotov, but it's just too little too late as both players take refuge up on the high ground, narrowly avoiding the damage. It looks like they're all out of util, but Richie, no, he jumps down, ends up taking fire from the Molotov. That could be the end of him, as Panic Show somehow not left as a solo.
I can't get over how Corrido have turned this fight on its head. I'm so impressed, but the problem is PD thought about third partying, but here come Team KZito. The rats have been drawn to the cheese, and Gabri will get knocked. They're able to pick up that one. Pressure from the other side for PD, but look at this Richie bringing the bike in to block one of the doors. The molly thrown in once more. They'll step back up on top of the stove, and the damage will go on to Panic Show once more. But the bike's at the door. Alir thought he had himself a knock for Team KZito as Quattro Condro will rotate on past here, but as jump back in, there's a bike at the door. You're not going to be able to step in. This is going to be tough. You got to win your 1v1 by the window, and you do. Joni will do it as the boys annihilate Corrido.
Unfortunate there for Corrito, but nicely done from the boys as Glock tries to close in the distance onto Team Casito. Potentially dangerous, hoping to make something out of this after losing a player early. They know Aliv's going to be up top as now frag grenades start to rain in. Potentially dangerous. They close the distance, but that makes them susceptible to that nade damage. Glock, though, tries to return with one of his own, throws it over the hillside. It certainly looks close to the vehicle, might be able to do some damage, but not to be. So right now, potentially dangerous, slowing things down, looking to try and get the revive before fully committing onto this one.
Yeah, and Capitan from Toyo, he's not too far away. He thinks that there might be the opportunity for Toyo to scrounge up some points here as another member of PD will get dropped. LG, the team this time, to put some real pressure on to PD, who've only got 2 players left standing. Glock is going to move up towards Slabby, thinking that the res is possible up in this section of the map, as Nightavon will go for the res on the other side. But there's 55 players left alive. Like, that's almost 10 players gone with just 9.5 minutes gone.
It's usually Taego where we see those early game fights, early game players going down, but it seems that Rondo is keeping the trend that we have previously seen from that previous game. E-pickup coming out from that team down in the far south. They are going to need it if this circle centers up, as it does. And it goes to Test Track. Look, I don't get to cast many test games, so you might be a bit checked out with this, but I'm excited for it. I want to see how these teams play it, especially these teams that are still really far away, like Empire, who have a very tough rotation to try and get in, especially with such a dominant team like Mirror that are going to be holding on that western side, and I don't expect them to move just yet.
No, why would they? Like, it's one of those scenarios where you wouldn't push. Now, there might be a crash happening towards the south as Taego are moving on in. You can see they're trying to take the position away from boys as Team K0 will rotate past. And the first thing Emmy's going to do is fire the nade. Clear that first warehouse. But boys are a little bit separated on the other side. On the kill feed, PD doing some real damage. But Taego, they know that boys are weak. And they see the opportunity to secure a compound inside the circle and get a couple more points on their tally.
I mean, making a little hole in the door. Could be for info, could be for an aid, could be both as the door now gets blown out. They're just trying to limit the amount of cover that boys actually have to work with. They probably don't know that boys have taken so many casualties already. But they're certainly not going to be upset when they find out as Emmy peeks through, uses that third person, knows exactly where the player's going to be, runs through the doorway, hits the hit fire. As Taego find their first knock in this battle, as things start to quiet down, they've got to be suspicious in terms of just how many boys players there are left up.
Now, they know there's two. They know, sorry, they know there's one left alive off the back of this one, and they deal with it. Boys eliminated. They're the second team to fall as 11 minutes and 49 seconds have elapsed. Now we've got ourselves an E-pickup dropping inside of a test track is Sacred. They'll be joining Team KZito and Zeka team forever in this position, and then Typhon there on the track itself. Elsewhere around the circle, Taego, we've seen them secure a southern compound, but now they might come under pressure from the likes of OMG. But in Zeki team, they've got vehicles at the ready. They're inside in Neox, just by the factory, just over by test track. They'll be happy enough with this position. But oh, look at Payne actually finding Cloisera, as we spoke about Taego doing some great work earlier.
Impressive to see. Can they convert it to anything more? Capitan takes a little bit of damage. Not all too much, but he is going to need to pop some boosts to get back to full health. OMG just working around this hillside right now. They do have vehicles to work with, which could provide them a little bit of an extra opening. It's Capitan, he's waiting, hoping one of these players will expose themselves. It's not to be. I'm not sure how much of a read OMG have on this. Obviously, they did spot out the player. That's a really well-placed nade. Capitan tries to pop up. It's going to be Pains from long range who ends up getting the knock. Taego now in a little bit of trouble, but not necessarily under pressure.
Yeah, trouble, though it's getting a little bit worse for them now as more damage dealt onto Benya. Capitan is dealt with as we see a big wrap going on from Emmy on the other side, trying to get behind enemy lines, and he might just be able to get the off angle on this side. Getting ready for that next zone shift. I'm assuming, as always, we'll have encompassing all the test track and factory, and that's exactly what happens with that circle. But can Emmy do damage from up on the south? Because you need to win this fight quicker now with that zone shift, because after this fight, are you going to play this dip? Are you going to try to push over towards where PD are? The longer it takes to clear this fight, the less options you have for that rotate.
What are Empire doing? That's my big question right now, because they are still out in the blue. They've still not made an entrance. They were in the blue before this next phase even popped. They have a big rotation ahead of them to try and get into zone. And again, Team Mirror, a squad that have been so dominant in our previous two games, are not going to let them in with ease. Typhon, they're going to try and get some kills on the board. They are really lacking in points right now, and they need to improve that. They are a team that we had high hopes for, and I keep harping on about it, but they are just not performing at the standard that we would expect from them.
Not yet, but there's still, 15 minutes left in this game. One tomorrow, one after it, and then 4 more tomorrow. So maybe, just maybe, they'll step it up. But I still feel like Team KZito are suffering from not having their star player of the last round. Like, I know this roster runs with 5 players, and they can interchange. But when you don't have one of your best players, it makes things really difficult.
Absolutely, it does. But it's all about adaptation, isn't it? And You know, if you don't have that best player, sometimes it's a case of the rest of the squad just being forced to level up. As right now, everyone pretty centered up in this compound just to the east of Test Track. They've got a lot of hard cover, potentially dangerous. It looked for a second like they wanted to try and make a move into it, but they've got a building of their own. As Mira, this is what we were concerned about for Empire. They've just managed to get 2 knocks on the rotate, quickly flushing that out. That's 2 kills on the board for them as Empire fall in 13.
Yeah, why not give Mira another 4 kills? Because they need the points, but you know what? For entertainment value, Mira continuing to dominate the lobby and get all these points just means that that cutoff point is going to be even more interesting, and a lot, you know, there'll be a lot less points between 8th and the rest of the pack. So LG, they're on the southwest side of the circle. They spot Taego, who managed to thread the needle as they make their way in towards Test Track itself. OMG tried to make the exact same move, but they get turned on their tails by PD.
Gabriel, not able to get any kills on the board for his team yet, but PD, they certainly have done. So we wait for that next zone to pop. We're going to see where it ends up. I really want to see this move off to the northwest just because of how open it is, and it'll be another kind of compound fight that we're dealing with, just like in our Taego game, as it does center up on Test Track.
Yippee! I like how it's all, like, it literally is all of Test Track. Like, it's just all of it.
It's perfect, isn't it? I want to see, though, where this next shift ends up going. Because if it goes to the east, then teams rotating in have a problem. If it goes to the west, then it's just going to be like last game, where it is just an absolute mess over on the eastern side.
Yeah, but whatever team takes the track itself is going to be able to, like, rain fire on the rest of the lobby. There's so much cover on the track that you can use to your advantage, and you can go prone as Bizzler gets caught out by Pain as he almost managed to turn the corner around. And now with that knock, will we see pressure from OMG? It looks like it. They've got the knock. They are on the move. They see the chance now to use that as your entry point. Gats is going for the res. Snakers will flee, but do they know that inside the smoke the res is occurring? Hopper has got 2 nades in the back pocket, 2 blue zones as well that he can use to throw over the top, but the problem is LG are back up to a 4, and Gats seems to have a lot of information on Pain. Spots out the backpack, smoke's being thrown. Gats the wild card, and he's going to feed that information as here come the nades from Snakers.
Snakers lining them up really well. Good communication coming out here from LG to share that information as Snakers, well, he spots out one of his own and tries to make something happen. He does exactly that, but Furhopper takes down Gats. It's Pain to finish off the Bizzler. There's now only 2 players going to be left up from LG. They're going to try and capitalize on this, but I think the revives are beyond reality right now as Snakers lands the spray, a decent amount of damage, but still not able to convert. It looks like he's positioning almost as if he wants to get the revive, but no, instead they're going to move up to the hillside and try and gatekeep potentially.
Yeah, information was fed, and with that, and with Team Mira moving this way, I think LG have made the best decision for them in that moment in time by moving closer to the center of the circle. Taego now, they've lost a couple, just Emmy and Benya left alive, trying to focus their way through. There is a smoke wall created for Benya, and he's going to toss down that shield. But for Taego, it's just a matter of surviving from this point on. Forever, oh, that molly, if it had have been a nade or a blue zone, would have been way more effective. But for now, Scooby can still stay in the corner.
Things start to, I want to say, slow down. Maybe that's not going to be true as Emmy goes for the pre-fire, lands the headshot, beautifully done, takes out Scooby. That's Forever down in 12th position. I imagine things start to slow down at least until we get that next shift. Sure, there's a lot of shots that are going to be coming out as Moolah drawing a lot of fire. The zone has moved over to the west, so this next zone is going to be messy. You can already see in check adjusted. They know that Team Casito are going to push across this road, and they are going to have some head-to-head fights sooner rather than later. Snakers falls, leaving only Voxic left up, and again, LG, they're just playing split. It'll be a difficult revive if they're able to make it.
Yeah, if a team can get up on top of the track now, they'll be able to really dominate this lobby. We saw Taego do it successfully inside of PAS, and it'll be even more successful inside of TPP. But before you can take control of Test Track, you've got these big battles that gotta happen over here, like the likes of Inseki team, all fighting their way out. Foradores, they're trying to lock the key down as Gringo will get peeked out from Panela Good as Team KZito. We spoke about how we haven't seen them come to life properly just yet. They've got themselves a couple of kills in this lobby already. That's another point on the board for them. But look at the angle that Yaye has from Siren.
He's trying to make something happen out of it, but he ends up getting punished in return. It's all well and good having an angle, but when it's the only one that you're able to peek, it's easy for teams to be able to pre-fire. That's exactly what we saw right there. The Siren, they're going to be moving close. They've crossed over the road. They've already got a player, but it's actually going to be Varus from Team Casito to take down Chuki G as they have a tough rotate ahead of them. Varus making the most out of it, tries to run across. It looks like he maybe spotted a player out in the open, but managed to avoid taking any damage. Just focuses on getting over to the hard cover and, more importantly, trying to get into the next phase, because that is what everyone is scrapping for right now. OMG down in 10 to Siren. They prep those smokes, they get ready for the cross, but Foradoras are already pre-firing that window, knowing he's going to jump out.
Are you ready for 10 minutes of action? Because that's what we're about to get. Yayi will find one knock, tries to get his attention on another one, but Agus will fall at the hands of Alir as Team KZito push their way in. 2 players down for them, though, as Varus is the only player up and alive, and Yayi will begin tossing those stun grenades down. Varus trying to create some deployable cover for himself, but all of Seren are focusing their attention this way. It's all down to he and Alirv. But with the angles being held, both players peeking through the windows, but let's not rule out Enzeki team coming in for the backstab on the other side. But great shots from Alirv, forcing Yayi into some cover. But while all this is going on, Atlas here for Foradores had the angle, but Sonics from the other side, Panela Good dealing a ton of damage and forcing him into cover. And now Chucky G is forced into his own bit of cover with that nade, getting him down to 18 HP. Blue zone is in position. Vara stepping through Chunks. This is a bloodbath.
It absolutely is. Team Casito, they've got one player a little bit further back. He's going to be chunking zone damage right now. That's got to be the end of him as Yayi goes down. Varus trying to jiggle Pete through the window, gets down behind the hard cover as the flashbang comes out, uses that third person to get the read. Knows exactly when the player's going to push through, but it doesn't matter as Shuki finishes off the job. We're into the top 8. Team Casito are eliminated out in 9th as Shuki, he needs to get some heals. He's only got bandages to work with right now, but in check, might just have pulled off a checkmate as they have him cornered, surrounded. They are ready to push, but they are just not willing to right now. They don't have the info that they need. They're trying to find alternate options to make their way into the circle. The jammer pack is going to come out big for them right now as Andrew gets onto the track. It's going to be Oliver that peeks out, takes down one from Foradoras. Fuscatau is the first to fall, but Oliver not doing so without damage. He's only got one first aid kit to work with. He's fully boosted, but that's only so helpful when you get pushed from behind. In check, finishing off the job as Foradoras holding onto the warehouse for all it's worth. They have to make a move. They've only got a little bit of cover inside of the zone and a long open rotation ahead of them if they want to make it into the next.
Yeah, the battle for the edge is even bigger, and Zeka team, they've gambled on taking the high ground, but let's look over as Team Mira, the dominant force in the lobby so far, having their way with potentially dangerous on the other side, but Kwan will fall as pressure comes in from Glock. Glock peeks up once more. Another member of Mira will fall as the 2 teams that have won 2 of the 3 maps so far are going head to head once more. Glock still tossing utility. Good nade thrown this way, but Glock behind cover. None of the shrapnel will fall his way. Fana, he's dropping a lot of HP points. Team Mira eliminated. No top 2 finish for them this time around as it's PD picking up the points. But Nzeke team still on the edge of the circle. Phase 6 is closing here, Chunks. And look at the angles they have as Sam Crow putting some real damage in from Typhon, who are holding the north.
Tony with the links, all it takes is one bullet and that player's gonna fall, but he just can't find it right now. Looks for one through the smoke, somehow manages to survive. As Typhon putting in a lot of work, 5 kills on the board, starting to stack up some much needed points. Benya covering his teammate Emmy as he moves back underneath that bridge, has himself some hard cover, but they know that in check are close behind. 25 seconds till that zone is fully closed in. There's limited util on the front of Foradoras as they just try and find an opening shot. They cannot connect. They know the players are inside that smoke. They want to nade it with all they can, but I don't think they have anything in terms of util at this point.
Not really. They've used a ton already. I see Lynx's, I see MG3s, I see Tokyo giving a third eye to Sam Crow as he hits that one with the Lynx. A little bit of overkill there, one might say. He fires another 2 shots. A ton of damage done as the level 3 vest really coming in clutch there for Panella. Good, but the spray from Tokyo, he gets himself a quick double, doing the damage through the smoke. And while all this is going on, Kerak, he wants to peek from the top of the ridgeline, but he cannot see what's going on inside the mixes. Infinite Void will send a Warlock to the next lobby. 15 ammo rounds left, 12 in reserve, as ammo is becoming a problem for all these teams who've been battling consistently for a while, as Tony's nade will wipe out Sonics. And then there were 5. Typhon with 7 kills, looking to move their way up, but Andrew comes under heavy pressure from PD on the opposite side. Let's see if Tokyo can make that link sing, as Kerak is the target here up on the high ground.
It's unfortunate from Foradoras. You would have hoped they would have been able to capitalize on those players underneath the bridge, but unfortunately the lack of nades just made it so difficult. They've been able to get players back up, but it's going to be in check now that are going to cause them a threat. Frag grenade comes out, but Emmy from behind takes Vinny down low. Not going to be enough to convert into a knock. They try and spray through the smoke. It's just not happening though. There's Toyo now being a thorn in the side of in check, and they will fall. 5th place for them. Then yet again, it's SA top 4 showing up right now. As oh wow, nice shots coming out from Samcro to take down Atlas. Emmy tries to find some of his own onto I Am Tokyo. That's Foradoras falling down in 4th place. Now Typhon, they are leading the lobby, at least in this current game. Tony tries to find an opening onto the ridgeline, but he just can't do it. So many links is in play right now, but the ammo is so limited. They're going to be forced to pick something else up. Grabs the QBU. He's got some long-range fire support, as Typhon need to figure out how they make it in. They've already got Karak's anchoring, but if they come out of this building, you've got to think all eyes are on them. They've got a vehicle. This could be what they needed to solidify their first chicken dinner of this weekend.
Yeah, the problem is if you want to join your teammate up on the high ground, the off-ramp is a lot further down to the south. So the question is, where do they elect to play? The rock looks to be the position of choice, as Kerak will get that knock onto Benya, and he's been dealt with pretty quickly. So Emmy, the last Toyo playing, but are they a little too tired to finish out this one with 1 player left up, or can they get a good grip here and get themselves a few more points on the board? Gabri pulls the pin on that nade. A great nade from Psycho comes the other way, but it bounced just a little too far there, Chunks. But I love this reposition from Gabri.
He's closing up the distance, wants to try and take this engagement, but knows just how difficult it will be. Calls in for a little bit of extra cover, hoping that they can work with something. There is really not much on this ridgeline, especially if Typhon decide to move over to the west. As of right now, that doesn't look to be the case. Karax is really going to be a vital player here for Typhon. Not quite inside zone, but at least can find an opening onto potentially dangerous. Let's not rule out Emmy, though. He is still alive, still using that pillar for cover. As you got to think, if potentially dangerous peak up, they're the only team that can really get an angle on him from the current position. Karax is going to be there to respond. As Typhon, they wrap down further. They are focusing this solo player. They want to try and get the kill, but it's Emmy that opens up down in 3rd place now. It's a 3 versus 4, and there is a lot to play for here for both teams.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, the high ground's being held, but what a nice shot from Glock, spraying towards Sam Crow, as Typhon are under a little bit more pressure. Sam Crow obviously moving over from his old roster to join a Typhon, as he played for Sam Crismo. Now he finds himself on another Brazilian roster. Kerak, the problem, up on the high ground. One member of PD has got to keep an eye on Kerak while the other two focus on the three below. But the thing is, this zone shift has actually gone in favor of PD, because up on top, Kerak is going to have to come down. PD are closer to the center of the circle. They've got a lovely ridge line that they can play that's really steep. Kerak has got to do something from that high ground. He's got to find a knock, or else he is going to find himself on the edge of a shooting gallery as he tries to make his way down.
The question now becomes, what do potentially dangerous actually do? They're not going to expose themselves until they absolutely have to. Setting up the smoke wall. Glock exposed himself for just a second. I'm not sure whether Karax was able to spot it. Tries to land some DMR shots onto the vehicle. Is able to land a couple, but it's nothing substantial. That grenade comes out into the smoke. Just trying to clear it out methodically right now. You've got to bear in mind, Typhon, they've been in this compound for a while. They haven't had too many close range engagements, even with the 10 kills that they've got on board. So they've got plenty of util to work with. Potentially dangerous. They saved their smokes, but now they've burned through pretty much all of them, and they've still yet to make a push. Psycho pops that first aid, ready to close in as the shots finally start to open from Tony. He's just trying to get some suppressive fire, almost shooting out in the hopes of getting a response. Nade is close as the smoke wall starts to pop again. Potentially dangerous. They look like they're itching to take this fight.
Yeah, well, that send to the wind turbine has really energized Typhon's hopes here as they look to use it to take a win. As you said, the smoke wall is in position, but there's going to be fireworks. Naidavon will switch over to the red dot. Close range, electing to zoom out just a little bit, but Glock is wrapping on the other side. He's got a stun grenade he throws at the side, but all the members of Typhon have stepped up in one spot, and they will find themselves a kill as Tony will grab onto Gabri. A re-peek on the other side. Kerak will take some damage from Glock Mofo, and Naidavon falls as well, leaving it all down to Glock. He's going to peek. The wraps on the other side. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Typhon, 13 kills, 23 points. Way to wake up in the third game of the night.
Now that is what we wanted to see from them. We keep talking about how their performance has been less than stellar, but that game completely turns things around. It shows that in these shorter format events, when we've only got 8 games to play, one game can be a difference maker. Over 2,000 damage, 13 kills on the board, taking them to a 23-point game. That is absolutely huge from them. As we take a look over the highlights, I'm sure in a couple seconds it's all just going to be that city fight over in test track. But I gotta say, credit to Shimboy. It's unfortunate that Dubsky wasn't able to make anything with that Panzer, but it just takes a little bit too long to pull out sometimes.
Yeah, and he missed his shot as well. And in a situation like that, sometimes the best thing to do is just shoot at the floor. Shoot really close at the floor. But didn't work out for them, but Empire managed to pick up the points off the back of that one. PD, another great game for them though. Like, they won game number 1. They got another point haul in game number 2, and the same in game number 3 with that third place finish, as it's been all about Team Mira and PD tonight so far. Taego, you got to give them credit. They picked up a couple of points in that one when things looked pretty bad, getting a top of 4 finish. But what about PD? Like, they were so good in this game, but Macro from Typhon was the story of the day, taking that high ground early.
Yeah, I mean, that high ground was the difference maker right there. It was bold to send him out, especially when there was so many players left up from all sorts of different angles. But look, if you can identify that if you can identify that position is free, then you've got to be the one to take it, and being able to get the high ground, it makes the world of difference. Potentially dangerous. They put in work right there, but ultimately it came down to the zone. Typhon had the better position, and they weren't the ones that were forced to push. And I mean, in the end, they get the win out of it. Beautifully done. 13 kills and a lot of points to go with it. My attention has to be drawn, though, to those teams that were able to make something out of nothing. So many squads able to get a decent number of kills, but they just couldn't convert it to placement, which in a circle like that is almost bound to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And you talk about the teams that took advantage of it, like Taego, PD, and Typhon, all taking big hauls. You had that huge fight with the likes of Inseke, Team Foradores, all battling their way through Neox Factory. Team KZito will be a little disappointed they didn't get more points out of that game, as will Panella Good and a few others. But a lot of the teams on the right-hand side of the leaderboard from 12th down to 16th are the same teams that we've seen on the right side of the leaderboard all night long. And just as that, they are kind of the bottom 4 going into this one. But because of Team Mira, because of PD, because of how good they've been at gathering points, 6th, 7th, and 8th are all only on 17 points.
Everything is relative in PUBG, isn't it? You know, just because you're having a bad day doesn't mean that you don't stand a chance of qualifying. When there are teams up at the top that are sponging everything away, everyone is having a bad day. And to be able to just get anything is really impressive in a lobby like this when you've got teams like Mira that are on 32 kills in 3 games. That is an absurd amount. That is just amazing to see. We still have 1 game left for the evening. It's going to be on our angle, and it's going to be interesting to see whether some of these teams that are further down the lobby can be in maybe more familiar territory that everyone is comfortable with, and see if they can maybe turn things around in that match.
Yeah, it's the last chance tonight to turn things around, with only 1 left to go tonight and 4 tomorrow. But we are going to jump into a quick break. It'll be about 3.5 minutes long. So as always, get hydrated, get yourself ready. 1 more game to go. It'll be fireworks. We'll be back in a bit.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
You know the game. That's the slogan for the PUBG Players Cup, and it is PUBG. What a night of action it's been so far, particularly for all those South American fans of the game, Chunks. It's just been dominant, but I will add the caveat, a lot of everybody's favorite North American teams already got through to the Players Cup last week.
Just showing your bias right there, just because you got to play rank with a few of them. I know how it is, man.
I play with Roth the odd time. Michael, gotta help him get some ranked wins as well. But you have to be honest, like a lot of the top NA teams did qualify last week, but it's been a hell of a showing from the South American sides this week.
Absolutely, it's been really impressive to see. Obviously, there's still a couple of teams that we were hoping for better things out of, but they're starting to turn the tables here. And when you're in a lobby like this, there are so many teams that have qualified from South America, and it's really impressive. It shows the dedication that's in here. That there are going to be teams that are the partner teams that get in, but there are other teams that, they have to work through these scrims. They have to be able to play consistently. And now it's just a case keeping that up. And I think that's something we got to pay attention to next weekend, because obviously there's going to be more games in it. Sure, the teams that maybe perform well in the shorter formats, in the best of threes, in the best of eights, sure, they can do well in a short format, but when we start to add more games in, how consistent can they really be? Are they reliant on those one or two really strong games? That's where we're going to see the difference made.
Yeah, when you've got the likes of Liquid and Alcudzia coming into play at the party as well, so it'll be fun when we get to the next Super Cup, but we've still got to decide who the final 8 teams to make it will be. But I do want to say one thing. Like, we still talk about things, South America and North America. At the end of the day, it's been one region for quite a while now. Like, it has been one region, so I know that the North American guys are like, yeah, the NA teams are better, and, a lot of the Brazil fans, and I will say this, it doesn't matter what esport it is, Brazil fans are some of the most passionate esport fans out there in any title. They're going to say Brazil teams are the best. But at the end of the day, once it comes around to PGS, we're supporting whoever made it from PEAS. So what a circle that is.
It's a standard one. Like, what are you talking about? This is the Players Tour. I think you keep forgetting. Obviously, you cover a lot of PUBG. I think you're maybe forgetting just how wacky the circles in the Players Tour have been, and I'm sure will continue to be. And we've seen this circle 3 or 4 times now. It's just a question of whether it goes to Prim or whether it goes to Ferry Pier.
Oh, you know what? I want to keep loads of Millie Island in. Just keep us waiting. Give us a bridge circle.
We saw that last
for a little while. Yeah, but talking about rotates now, right? If you're over on this side, because I'm going to draw because I get to, you've got the opportunity to go for that rotate if you're some of those teams, right? Play it in really late, cross the bridge, because there's so little playable terrain, in essence, inside of the mainland, that your best option is to play the long game and then wait to see what happens with the other teams inside the lobby. But the time for talking about that is a little bit further away, because Sam Crow will be in a game fight early on in this one. Typhon find themselves a little bit stuck between a rock and a hard place with PD and boys all around them.
Yeah, it's difficult for them now, because obviously there were so many teams that landed in this area. Now with the circle popping here, there's going to be even more teams moving in. They need to try and find something, and I think they thought they found it in the form of these southern ferry pier compounds, but Glock is making his presence known, forcing them away. Now you got to think, okay, we'll go over to Prim, but then we've already got Fuzkatao down in Prim. So I think Typhon, after a really impressive game, are going to struggle to make anything out of this one. It just comes down to whether they're actually going to be able to find anywhere to get loot, because based on how things are currently rolling and how many teams are kind of squadded up and set in position, they're going to be limited to going into Primorsk and scrapping for the leftovers as the vehicle flips. Thankfully, they make it out unscathed, but that could have been very messy for them.
I like how Psycho bailed as soon as it flipped. He was like, I'm not taking any risk. I'm going to be the first in. But they've got themselves with 3 players up inside of Primo. I'm curious now, how do Foradores play this? They take the extremity drops. You drop inside a Primo. Means that you're more often than not going to be playing from the edge in. How quickly are they going to loot inside of Primo? How quickly are they going to extend a couple of players out to secure some of these stronger compounds that you have a little bit further up to the north? Because way too often, a team like this will get the circle, and they're not used to it, so they play a little slow. The tempo's just not quite there, like what you would see from the teams that usually drop more central inside of the map. But I will give them credit. They are sending Tokyo in to secure some ground, but the problem for Tokyo is the compound he was having a look at has already been taken up by the boys.
Yeah, it's difficult for all of these teams right now. If you're not a squad that landed on this southern side, then you're kind of playing for the scraps up to the north. I think based on what we've seen in previous weeks' play, when we've had circles like this, a lot of them are going to be playing that slightly northern ridgeline, try and get any compounds or shacks around there. I think that all the teams that are rotating in far from the north, they're probably going to try and grab something around Gatka, around Chopsticks, that kind of area, just so they're not under pressure too early on. As actually, we could see a little bit of a problem here between Carry and the boys, both right next to each other. There is a little ridge between these compounds that can provide a little bit of respite, but all it takes is a team to say, hey, no, we want to get some kill points. Let's push over with the vehicles, make something happen. Then you've got a real mess and a real dangerous early game fight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to those early game fights. And that one, I don't think they'll look to take it on too early. Team KZito scouting all around Quarry. I like the position that they're playing in that bowl, but it's been a lot quieter, right? We've lost 2 players early. Here comes the spray from Vixen. Forever going to rotate past. They pop the tire. They might just be a sitting duck, but no. Panadorito had just too much tempo, too much pace on the way past, and they manage to get up the hill. Not only that, they do a great bit of damage on Fana.
Really impressive there from Mira, but they're just not able to convert. As now Team Casito, they look and try and do some damage of their own. Alir manages to catch a little bit, but not able to convert it over to the knockers. Carito, they're going to hear those vehicles. They're going to be cautious of a push, but it's going to be Forever that needs to be cautious of that Panzer. It doesn't matter when you miss the shot, though. Nubsky turns around, takes down Gita God. As the rest of the boys, they try and trade it out. The nade comes over the top. He's taken so low as Joni just about gets over the hill and into some safety. Needs to quickly get that revive or quickly press the fight to avoid any supporting players from Forever closing in, but it's too late as Slump's already there.
Yeah, and there's the peek around the side. Nubsky will find that kill and confirm it out, and now we've got ourselves a dance around the tree as Nubsky gets another one. Oh my, Forever are standing their ground strong, but then Nubsky will find himself going or tealing a little. Actually, this is a fight elsewhere. I got a little bit confused there. I'm sorry as we jumped from one fight to the next pretty quickly, but I will say this. We had some of the Gunners players in chat. They'll not be too impressed by that Panzer usage a little bit earlier.
No, I mean, we know how strong Gudas can be, especially when it comes to the Panzer plays. And we've seen a couple of nice ones tonight, but nothing consistently converting over. Nicely done, though, from Potentially Dangerous to take down that player from OMG. They have managed to grab control of this position. This is going to be a really strong one if we do end up getting another southern shift, as the early game fights are not resting up. Toyo, they're engaged on towards Mira. Benya's already been able to get a knot. They should be able to revive it, but they need to be careful as Selfish from in check is going to be third party and onto it. Capitan ends up getting flushed out to them in the end, so only 1 kill on the board for Mira. That's nothing to be concerned about. They are just stacking up points and solidifying their position.
They're not even going to confirm that kill on the Klaus era. Whether they okay, they didn't confirm that kill, but they'll rotate on and through to the circle, find themselves somewhere else to play, hoping that kill will get confirmed out by time a little bit later on. Benya getting a bit of pressure by McDonald's. Seat swaps, but it ain't going to be good enough. That'll be him down and out. Selfish from Nzeka team will find that kill. And then there were 50 players left alive. Come on, Fana, you can do it. There you go. Reverse parking can be difficult sometimes. Not that I would know. I'm obviously incredibly good at it, you know, as you can imagine, Chunks.
Oh, I'm sure. Just like you're amazing at ranked, you could qualify for PNC. Look, I've heard you bigging yourself up enough tonight. I respect it.
I'm gonna like add some color to that though. I'm amazing at ranked because I get carried by pro players, and fair. I would get on Team Ireland for PNC because I'm like one of the 4 players. So it's like by default. I get on PNC by default. Okay.
I like it. My granddad's Irish. Maybe I should try and get on the team.
Oh, Honestly,
Great granddad. Does that cover me?
Your surname on the back of an Ireland jersey would go crazy.
The irony.
Yeah. As Selfish and Zeka team move their way inside of Quarry. Missed opportunity there from Team K0 to get a knock, and it allows Zeka team to move in next door.
Robert, gonna try and find an opening onto in check. Is Selfish returns the fire. Not going to be able to convert to anything. As Team Casito, they do need to be a little bit concerned about this. They are quite split off. If Vinny and Andrew do decide to come up this hillside, they could very easily isolate that single player. It looks like Varus is going to try and get a bit of a pinch position. And now the zone is closed in. I think this is what we're all waiting for right here. Everyone is clustered up. There is a significant number of people down to the very south, which I think is expected based on the previous circles we've had here.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a repeat. Here we go again. We're going down to Primorsk, Ferry Pier, that entire ridgeline just up to the north. It's going to be a mess. And I'm going to give drawing a go because honestly, I think it all comes down to whoever holds this hillside here is going to be the team that looks strongest, but it's not going to be an easy one to take.
Yeah, that hill is going to be a tough one, but you don't want to get there too early either. If you get there too soon, you're going to get surrounded on all sides. But LG, they're rotating side by PD as they will move inside the circle, getting closer and closer to this hill on the south side of Quarry, which is exactly along the line of where you want to see a team take advantage of a little bit later. Primo becoming a spot of contention as well, as we got Foradores putting pressure on as they look to explore some parts of the section of the map as Fusquitao puts pressure on the PD. But PD, they're not backing off. They're going to send it straight on up through the mix, and Fusquitao hits empty on the ammo, and that buys PD a little bit of time.
Nades coming out over the ridgeline, trying to find an opening. Nothing just yet, but potentially dangerous. They need to focus on medding up before they fully engage this fight. They have been able to. Slabby playing the rock just for a little bit of an off angle. He's looking looking up to the north, just making sure he's not going to get spotted out by a DMR. He sees the vehicle, will be calling this one out. As Foradoras maybe overexposing themselves slightly. A nasty little headshot onto Atlas there. Doesn't convert, but nice for just a little burst fire to take that player down and at least take him out the fight for a couple of seconds. Slabby preps up the flashbang. He's going to try and catch them off guard from a different angle. Follows it up with the second. Infinite Void falls. He goes to the Pete, uses the third person, sees over the ridgeline, takes down one, tries to transfer the spray to the second, but it's not going to be enough. Atlas turns around. Glock tries to make something happen, but it's not to be. As potentially dangerous fallout in 15th position. Forador is still standing.
Yeah, and now they've got to get everybody back on their feet. As Pain from Oh My God looks this way. Atlas the target, but Atlas will lose the tire on that UAZ, which will demobilize it. Another tire pop attempted. And that means that UAZ is essentially now useless for the rest of this game. A lot of the circle is water as the beach is being played by Oh My God, but that phase... You talk about phase 4 being the land ratio shift. This is still phase 2. Like this, there can be a lot more water inside of phase 3 if the zone decides that it doesn't want to mess about on the last game of the day.
I mean, we can only wait and see. I would love to see this move down to the southwest and just end up in Primorsk, but I think ultimately it again comes down to that northern hillside. Who's going to take it? And right now, LG are the only ones in that position. The downside to playing that hillside early on is so many teams are going to push onto it, and there isn't a huge amount of cover that you're able to work with. It is all about making the most out of the high ground when you have it. I should point out, Typhon, they are going to move into Primorsk. They've still got a player up on that hillside making a little bit of noise, but they do need to be cautious because there is going to be Siren moving around from the west as we wait for that zone to close in. Everyone's seeming relatively settled. It's only really Typhon that are getting aggressive at this point in the game, just because they know they are fighting out on the edge. And we get a Primorsk ending, Gibson.
Yeah, and still tons of water left to deal with as that little peninsula enclave that is Primo will be the final bit of the game. The final bit of the circles that will go inside the city with that next shift. But with that, Empire, they're holding the power road inside the circle. Typhon, they've got themselves a foothold as well, but you've got Karak on the high ground, scouting elsewhere going to happen. But the question is, where do the Sacred push go? They're moving up towards Karak, up on top of the hill. They change their mind, and Tony almost gets a knock, but Psycho will find it. One member will fall. Tony, he's going to peek on up. A great spray as Chucky will be the next one to go down. Agus is the next target in this battle. A nade will be thrown. Let's see if the nade will be a good one, though.
Typhon really making the most out of this player up on the hillside, doing what he can to try and flush out any kills that are possible. More frag grenades coming over, trying to land onto Agus, but it's going to be Michael who finishes off the job. A team effort there between Typhon and Empire, as Empire continue putting pressure onto teams that are rotating in. Selfish is going to fall as Poonage gets the knock. More players closing in. It's just going to be a scramble for compounds at this point. You have to think, though, this must move up to the north at some point. So teams like LG, they're going to be happy with their current position. It's just not the kind of spot you want to have multiple teams fighting in. Selfish, the vehicle blows up. Michael flushes it out. Karax, he was playing this hillside as a solo, still is, and now has more teams to try and deal with. Balefrost lands the spray onto Richie as Poonage goes down. Psycho able to pick up the knock, but not the flush out of it. Vinny stacking up more kills, 4 in check. 3 on the board already. As things slowing down, but just only for a few seconds, as more teams need to try and thread the needle and make it in.
Yeah, Vinny's nade almost landing perfectly through that window and would have confirmed out a kill, but the nade from RNZ, that one is not going to make any mistakes, as Chikorito will drop. 38 players left alive. Empire looking to get all players back. Oh my god, Jed Shot, behave yourself, as he will set Mula into the floor. Beautiful there from Jed.
Jed Shot with the headshot straight onto the vehicle. Nicely done to get the second point on the board for boys, and it really is a salvage game, so that matters very much for them. The zone is closing in. We are going to see another shift sooner or later, but it's Forever that need to make their way into the circle, and Mula are just going to be posted up and waiting for them. Decides to send it down to the south instead, and it isn't quite as north as I would have expected, as still a huge amount of Primorse going to be in. We could end up central in Primorse for our endgame here.
I love the position, though, of Typhon and Empire in that north side of Primo. Infinite Void here is pushing pressure on Michael. He'll get the spray. Slump will fall as Empire are trying to build this one brick by brick to find a game at the win at the end of the night's action. Gats from LG. He'll find the knock onto Foradora over on the other side of Primo, but that one should be resable for them. Typhon, they did lose Sam Crow, but 3 players up, and they've got themselves a foothold inside the circle as the mass migration begins.
Team Casito, they've tried to crash onto Nubski's compound. It's not going to be great for them, though, as Forever finish off the job with the support of Mirror. Nubski is down low, needs to pop that heal, because if there's a player in nade range, they know exactly where it needs to go. Typhon, they're getting a little bit sketchy when it comes to taking those peaks. They can't overexpose themselves. Only a single floor as well, so you don't have that high ground to try and work with. LG, I think they've identified there's a squad up to the north. Voxic lands the shot. Can he get the knock? Yes, he can. Sonics goes down. They know there's a team they have to worry about. Surely they get players out of this hard cover, play that ridgeline, try and make something happen out of it. But no, it looks like Voxic, he's repositioning the vehicles. I don't think this is a rotate. He's definitely grouping up, trying to get over to his teammates as LG. They need to get out of this hard cover. This is a potential choke point as Penella Good. Oh, they've not seen Slutino round the corner, holding the tree line. He knows where Voxic is, he knows where Gats is, and he knows where Ridgy is. Snakers might be able to catch them off guard as Bizler finishes off Jed Shot from the boys. Penella, they are just waiting for their time to strike, not overexposing themselves. The nades come out, they're going to call it. Snakers gets the flush, Voxic trades it for a knock. There's only one player left up. Maybe just playing for placement, hoping LG forget about him.
Oh, but I feel like he had the chance there, but the problem is he doesn't have an extended mag. He's only got 30 bullets, so the spray transfer, you know, if he wants to go full auto, he has to make every shot count. And just the lack of an extended mag proving to be a problem. So he will stay hidden for now. Voxic will drive past. Senor Latino, he'll dance with the devil, moves around the tree and stays hidden for now. This is great. You know what? It's... Oh, he's scouting.
Did he see him?
Vox
He must
is
have
looking.
seen
Yeah,
him.
there you go. Gat's got it. He could have gotten a kill and confirmed it. He tried to play too passive, but I do feel the lack of an extended mag killed him there.
It's unfortunate there, but that's the way it goes. Sometimes you try and play for info, and unfortunately, you play a little bit too passive. Circle shifts slightly up to the north. LG is still going to be happy with their position. Even if they have to move out of this one, they've got that little roadblock down to the south they can play. They just need to be cautious of that eastern squad. Empire pretty happy with their current spot, dead center. The same goes for Typhon. The only squads that really have to make a move here are the team up on the east and those teams down to the southeast. And I gotta think for 4C, they are gonna have real trouble getting across this road, especially when OMG have 2 players in the building to their west and another covering from the warehouse down on the south.
Yeah, the thing is, the player on the south, he'll be able to just peek whenever he needs to. Fair Hopper's there, and there you go. There's the peek from the other side. And oh my god, we'll pick up another kill as Twitch Studio will land on top of his own nade. Payne still using the angle on the other side. Smoke there will distract Aki for just a little while. You can see Aki is peeking this way. But Payne, you gotta be quick. You gotta be fast and you gotta be nimble if you want to move out of the way. And Payne's gonna throw a first-class delivery of a nade this direction. But it's not long enough. Only 38 damage has been found. I think Aki gets this knock. I think if Aki peeks quick enough, he gets it. But he misses every single shot except for the last one. And now Payne, he is the advantage with the deployable cover. This could not have gone worse for Aki.
He's got the cover, but he needs to land the shots more importantly because this is a phase 5 zone. It is not going to go easy on you, and nobody else from OMG is able to get an angle to give any support whatsoever. He's spotted out in the open court with a headshot, and it's just mutually assured destruction here as Aki goes down to the blue. We make it into placement points in only phase 5. OMG with 2 players left up, and the one player who was able to pick up kills so far is now out of the fight. Circle continues to close through as now all eyes are shifting up to this hillside. The deployable shield is down for a little bit of extra cover. They did have a vehicle, but I don't think it's in a position to actually be grabbed. There's still a ridgeline to work with, but really for Foradoras, they are going to have trouble when they come down this hill.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough one for them, and there's a couple of positions that are really good in a few minutes time, but you can't really go there yet. Like the ridgeline beside Nobski, not a bad one at all. Team Mira, they're on the south side of the circle. Your dominant team inside the lobby so far, looking to just flex their muscles once more. They're inside the placement points again as that window has now opened, and all these teams are on the clock. See how many more points they can get on the final game of the night. Foradores, they've got themselves a position, but as we get ready for that next shift chunk, it's about 3 seconds away. Who is going to be the winner? Who's going to be the loser? With
Empire.
Empire are in such a good spot, but I think for LG, that ridgeline, if you can get to this ridgeline and this one, you can build something from there and you can scout inside the circle. But the question is, what do Foradora do from now? Because they could have gone here earlier, but now they can't. Hello, my little drawing just as the map went away.
It's always unfortunate timing, isn't it, with those drawings? That's why I don't bother. I just I know I'm going to get caught off guard by them one day, and I'm just going to have a giant arrow pointing at a player's head. There's now LG. They're going to try and make their entry. I have to agree with you to a certain extent. I think that playing towards that roadblock, playing the ridgeline that Snakers has, is probably their best position. I don't think that, you know, moving all the way over to the west is going to be a very good idea for them. I think it'll just expose them a little bit too much. But you know what? When you got positions like Snakers has and you're landing shots like that, it could be a huge opening. Unfortunately, LFP is going to be there to take him down. 4 kills on the board for Mira, which is really impressive. Yet again, getting kill points in a very difficult position. XP Belfrost with the spray onto one of the in-check players. Bisler trying to find a angle over the top of any of the Foradora squad, but right now they are just not making any moves whatsoever.
Is that a gas can explosion onto RNZ, which will confirm out another point for Empire as they keep their good game going, but Foradora are going to attempt to explore a way inside the circle. But where do they go? There is a building that is available to be taken, but instead they're going to go right up on top of Vox, and he'll find himself that one. Foradoras, now they've got no vehicle, now they've got no real chance, no real opportunity to make their way inside the circle. Fana from Mira pressuring from the other side, and well, really what they want to say right now is sniper, no sniping, but Fana will keep on doing it, and downfall Foradoras.
Really nice third party coming through there from Mirror. Luminosity should be able to get that player back up. Bizzler's going to move into the roadblock. No, he isn't. He's going actually far over to the west to support Gats here. I think they might be aware that Forever are going to be on this ridge line, so they do need to try their best to cover it. Only 35-ish seconds till that zone has centered in. We find out where we're going to go. But right now, if you're Typhon, if you're Empire, you're feeling really good about things. I got to say, Empire specifically in a really strong position. They've got multiple bits of hard cover, multiple buildings. Sure, it's going to be difficult to try and play for those trades, but at least you're going to minimize the opportunity of getting yourself naded, because a team like LG, they've not been taking too many close range fights this game. It's all been a lot of long range, so they should have plenty of util that they're going to be able to use in the late game. It really is. What an amazing shift for those teams that are already over in Primorsk, and that might have just handed things over to Team Mirror right there, as they've got themselves a little bit of hard cover, which has been hard to come by so far. Punage takes down Voxic with the bolt, but it's Michael who's going to be there to try and finish off the job. Gats looking over that ridge line, trying to find an opening, as LG, they are starting to panic a little bit. It seems like Gibson's having some technical issues, and I feel for him right now, unfortunately missing out on this fight, but Nubsky, he is not going to miss out. Bizzler spots him over at the tree line, deciding not to take the shot just yet, getting a read on things. Snakes is going to be there. Now this is big. He's got a BZ nade. He's got 2 frags. If he was to throw one of these on this position, it could be absolutely huge for him. Gats is looking out, trying to return it, closes down with the smokes. LG just fighting tooth and nail to try and make it into this circle. Nubsky preps the frag grenade. His jammer pack's about to run out. Hits the headshot over on towards Gats. LG are going to be aware that they're completely surrounded now. Nubsky throws out a BZ nade, just trying to be a thorn in the side of LG. Big spray, but it's not to be.
It is not to be, as I am back, but Empire 5 kills. They're going to be holding the key for these teams as they begin to move their way inside the circle. You've got Mira. They've flanked all the way on the south side of Roshawk now, and that's exactly what Beelfrost has been tasked with keeping an eye on. Beastweaver firing those shots through as Punage looks to add to his tally. Snakers, though, will manage to dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge his way around that gunfire. But oh my god, LG almost opening up the door from Snakers. But LG dropped. Typhon down to 2. Psycho will go for the res as they move into the corner into another room, just to make sure no nades are tossed this way, as in Zeke team will find the knock on to Fixin, but Mira should be able to find that res pretty quickly.
Phase 8 about to pop, and well, so are some heads with the way that things are going. It's actually only Furharper who's not inside zone right now. Everyone else is able to wait, but they're now getting a read on where that final dot is going to be, where they actually have to make a move to. I don't think anyone is going to be all too happy about it. Mirror, they've got the revive. They're back up as a squad, as Andrew in a little bit of pressure here from the BZ nade is going to be chunking a lot of damage. There's 2 of them at once, just about gets over to the doorway, but it continues to spread, finishes off the job onto Vinny as Empire, they are just pushing their way through. There's only going to be Andrew left up. He takes a lot of damage, runs over to the bathroom for a little bit of safety, throws down the gas can. Is it going to be enough? Unfortunately not. Shimboy gets the spray. And finally, Gibson, we have an NA team in the Final 4.
Oh, it's great by Empire, but that was so close with that gas can. He almost pulled the blinder, throwing the door closed, but it just wasn't to be. 6 kills for Empire now as they are starting to strike back inside the lobby. Will they be able to get some more? 4v4, v3, v1, OMG. Still alive and well inside the lobby as it looks like Empire, they're trying to go vertical here. Looks like they're attempting to make their way up on top of the roof.
Mira making the most out of the high ground that they do have from Fakesen, but he just can't find an angle onto anything. Now, Empire, they've been able to push dead center. They are happy with their current position. They still need to be cautious, obviously, with that util that could be used to do some damage. But right now, the hard cover matters so much more. Shinboy's getting up on the roof, but it looks like Karax has been able to spot him out. Not taking any shots just yet, maybe waiting for those Empire players to be forced in by the blue and then to catch them in the open, confirm those kills, and just to weaken Empire ever so slightly more.
Empire, as we said, 6 kills on the board. Mira have been smashing it as well, and they're looking to finish things off with a bang as well, but Michael will smoke off the window, buys himself and his teammates a little bit of time to reposition. It's a smart play by Michael, allows him to focus on the other side as they've got themselves players on the roof. But as you can see, the center of the zone is a little bit closer, but Kerak will spray him down. Typhon get the angle, and now all of a sudden we need a little bit of quick work. But great nade from Shinboy, another one thrown up through this guy. A better nade from Shinboy as 2 members from Typhon fall. One will be flushed, Kerak will drop, but do Empire have enough time to get Michael back on his feet? The answer is no, as Quan from Mira gets their 10th kill, and that's even more points as the rich keep getting richer.
Everyone thinks these phase 9 circles move slow, but I'll tell you what, if you're a team like Empire right now, right on the edge, that is not the truth. Fakesen throws out a nade, trying to finish off the job, not to be, tries to get up on the top of the roof, but he is just struggling with that jump, which, hey, I couldn't do it if I tried. Trying to just get that high ground to make something out of it, but it is not to be. Kawazine, look at this from Mira, 10 kills yet again. They are just farming the lobby this evening, looking to get yet another chicken dinner. Fana has been able to make it up onto the top. He gets the nades in hand, tries to pressure Tony, but it's just a little bit overcooked, lands a little bit short and not able to catch any damage. Karak, Tony moving up one by one, leapfrogging each other's position. Tony finds the opening onto Shinboy, as now he's going to be forced in by the blue. They have to focus onto Empire, but it looks like that was a Molotov or something, doing a lot of damage onto Belfrost. Fakes in, takes down Karax. It's down to the solo now for Typhon. Tony peeks out, does a lot of damage, but it's not to be. LFP is going to fall now for Mira as Typhon down in 3rd place. It's Empire versus Mira. Belfrost trying to make something happen here with the underarm flash, but Mira doing exactly the same thing. Fana spins around the side, cleans up the job. Empire fall in 2nd, and Team Mira 13 kills in their 2nd chicken dinner.
Mira, Mira on the wall. Who's the strongest team of them all? Well, it's certainly been them today with another 23 points as they have been dominant all day long. Empire getting themselves in 2nd place on that map. That'll shoot them up the leaderboard. Should get them in a pretty good spot for qualifying for the Super Cup in a couple weeks' time. But Mira, they don't even have to play tomorrow. They can just pack their bags and get ready for that Super Cup final and Super Cup because they're chilling. They've been so good today.
It has been an unbelievable performance from them, it has to be said. Just consistently getting kills. I don't even want to try and do the math in my head on what exactly they're going to be up to, but if they keep up this momentum, there is going to be a huge gap between them and 2nd place. I got to give credit to all those teams, though, that had to fight their way into that circle. It was a brutal one, and for teams like Empire, who managed to get there early, they made the most out of it, getting a 2nd place in that game. Really, really impressive match all around, and I got to say, what a way to end day number 1. As we prepare to see which teams have made it into the top 8. Still plenty more games to play, but it gives us an idea of those teams that are maybe a little more secure than others.
Yeah, and just look at that. Like Team Mira, another 23 points. Typhon, 2 good games for them back-to-back to finish off the night as they get 10 more points on the board. But all in all, this has been a brilliant performance by the Brazilians. And Team Mira in particular, like I said at the start of the night, how I genuinely believed that these were some of the best teams from the region. Players like Fana, Coanzin have been so good, and they just had fun with the lobby. Like, that 13 more kills, is that they're well up into the 50 plus kills over 4 maps. Like, that's 10 kills a map, not including placements. They've been so good. And look at that overall. They had 45 kills. That was a few off, but 72 total points over 4 maps. That is so good.
It is absurd, is what it is. If they can break the 100-point mark, I think they might just be the first team to do it. So let's hope that they can keep up some momentum. You know, obviously in the Players Tour, with it being a shorter format set of games, we don't really have that opportunity for these teams to be able to get over the 100-point mark. But I think Miramar might be on their way based on their current trajectory.
Can we just talk about the fact that Team Mira, if they didn't get a single placement point, would be in second place?
It's crazy.
Without placement points, they'd still be in second place. Like, as I said, players like Fana, Coanzin, they are really good players. Like, I cannot express in words, like, I can't express words, but I cannot, like, really tell you how impressed I have been by how much mechanically these Brazilians players have improved over the last 2.5 years. They've been brilliant. You saw what just happened at PAS with, you know, regional dominance from them. I think that this is a golden era for teams from South America, and I know that their fans love it because they've had some tough times.
They certainly have, but look, things are starting to change. Look at the top teams from every single game we've had tonight. In the top 4, I think we've had 1 team from North America throughout the 4 games we've had. It might have been 2. I can't remember whether LG had made it into one of them. But still, the consistent performance from the South American teams this evening has been absolutely amazing. And we spoke earlier about just how passionate all of their fans are. I'm sure they will be celebrating tonight, especially if this carries on going into tomorrow.
I do think there was only 2 North American teams. So, you know, the odds were stacked a little bit against them, right? It's so... You know, with only 2 and then 14 being the other way, but still really good for the Brazilians. It's been a pleasure casting with you as always, Chunks. If you at home want to see the final couple of maps of this weekend, they will be tomorrow night on your screen. Same time, same place. A nice bit of action to watch just before PGS starts next week. So we will see you all tomorrow. Take care. And until then, in the words of Toffees, play more PUBG.